Chapter 2448. Ah, the fire elemental fairy was completely dumbfounded by Yi Zichen's question. I was thinking about what the Emperor Star was going to ask for his expression to be so serious. Who would have thought that? Elemental fairies can marry humans? What kind of question is that? Answer me, this is an important question. Yi Zichen asked seriously. Sure. The fire elemental fairy hesitated for a moment. We elemental fairies are a type of human that is formed from elements. We're just a rather high-level human. Understood. Yi Zichen revealed a smile in his eyes. What's with that look? The fire elemental fairy's expression instantly changed when she saw Yi Zichen's ambiguous expression. Say, don't think too much, I'm just... Sure, I don't need to say anything. Yi Zichen covered the elemental fairy's mouth. At that moment, the girl's battle with the city guards had already reached its climax. The long-faced guard was clearly no match for the girl. The moment the girl stomped the long-faced guard onto the ground, the other guards also charged forward. In terms of one-on-one combat, the girl was not afraid of the guards at all. However, if 10 odd guards charged forward at the same time, she would find it very hard to hold them off. Kill him. The long-faced guard covered his bruised face and roared angrily. The girl clenched her teeth and gripped the silver dagger tightly with her right hand. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, the guards that charged forward were all sent flying into the air. There was also a guard who waved a long blade. Just as the blade was about to land in front of the girl's face, his hand was suddenly grabbed by a black-robed young man. 10 odd men bullying a little girl. Do you have any shame? Yi Zichen chucked the guard away, then looked at the girl in front of him with a perverted look. Girl, I think you're pretty good. Are you interested in becoming my daughter-in-law? What did you say? The girl doubted her own ears. Do you see that stupid brat over there? That's my eldest son. What do you think of him? Yi Zichen smiled. The girl was actually still confused. She had been prepared to fight it out with the guards, but Yi Zichen suddenly appeared. Before she could even see his movements clearly, the guards were all sent flying. Just as she was about to thank him, Yi Zichen suddenly said something very strange. Daughter-in-law. Now, she was suddenly asked to evaluate the young man who seemed to have flames burning above his head. Why was his head on fire? Was he angry? I'm all right. The girl hesitated for a moment before saying, I don't think he's that stupid. Do you like him? Imperial Star. The fire elemental fairy covered her face and hurried over. She nodded apologetically at the girl, then grabbed Yi Zichen. What are you talking about? I'm looking for a wife for you. Yi Zichen shrugged. I thought you liked her since you were so nervous about her. But I think she's pretty good. She's beautiful, and most importantly, she's talented. Most importantly, she has a hot temper. She'll definitely be able to teach you a lesson in the future. Don't talk anymore. The fire elemental fairy covered Yi Zichen's mouth, then looked at the girl apologetically. Girl, I'm sorry. My master's head was struck by lightning when he was young, so he's always crazy. Oh, the girl nodded. Don't take what he said to heart. The fire elemental sprite spoke again. It's okay. The girl shook her head. Are you angry? I'm not angry. Then why is there a fire burning on your head, and it's getting bigger and bigger? The girl pointed at the top of the fire elemental sprite's head. Great, you have accomplices. At this moment, the long-faced man's face was filled with anger, and his heart was burning with raging flames. Just you wait. You beat up the city guards and want to force your way through. None of you will be able to escape. The fire elemental sprite frowned upon hearing this. The long-faced guard subconsciously took half a step back. He was not a fool. He could feel that these people in front of him were not people to be trifled with. What are you doing? You still want to act fierce? Do you know who I am? Looks like this official has a backer. Yi Zichen pushed the fire elemental fairy's hand away. Then let me ask you, do you know who I am? I don't care who you are. The long-faced guard shouted angrily. Are you sure you don't want to ask? I might have a very powerful background. Do you really not want to know who I am? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled. For some reason, when the long-faced guard saw Yi Zichen's calm expression, the long-faced guard let out a deep sigh. Who are you? He knew all of the important figures in the city, and he also had an impression of the people in charge of the surrounding towns. However, he had never seen Yi Zichen before. Even so, when he saw how confident Yizichin was, he didn't dare to act too arrogantly. His backer was actually only an average person in this town. I, I am the legendary warrior of justice, the one who will help when I see injustice, the one who will fight back wherever there is oppression, the one who has the guts of steel and the aura of a hero. As he spoke, Yizichin intentionally struck a very cool pose. The fire elemental sprite covered her face with her hands. I only have one thought in my mind. Hurry up and take my Emperor Star away. You F*** king tricked me. The guard's face turned completely red. Just as he was about to attack, Yizichin suddenly spoke up. It seems like I, a warrior of justice, can't scare you. Then don't worry. Do you know who's behind me? You. The long-faced guard was about to curse out loud, but when he saw Yizichin's gaze, he swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Who's behind you? You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Yizichin patted the guard's shoulder with a smile. Behind me stand millions upon millions of righteous, hot-blooded, promising young men. With him around, I'm not afraid of any difficulties or obstacles. I'm invincible, a promising youth. The long-faced man instantly clenched his fist. Yizichin suddenly reached out his hand. Wait, it seems that even a young man can intimidate you. Then, don't you want to know who my little brother is? My little brother in your town is F***CKU. The long-faced guard didn't listen to him at all. He had already been fooled twice. Did he really think he was a fool? Beat him up. Say, young man, why don't you have any patience? Yizichin shook his head silently. My little brother is actually really amazing. He has quite a bit of status in your town. With that, Yizichin looked up and shouted, Dija, your boss is about to get beaten up. Hurry up and help. Chapter 2449. Within a restaurant in the city, a young man with greasy hands sat on a wrought-tan chair, while all sorts of delicacies were piled in front of him. Even so, a middle-aged man with a bulging belly was still recommending delicacies to him. 10 odd beautiful women stood behind the middle-aged man, each of them holding different dishes in their hands. Lord Dijon, this is a new specialty of our restaurant. Please have a taste. The owner waved his hand with a smile, causing several beautiful women to walk over with silver trays. Sure. Put all here. The young man waved his hand. The middle-aged man quickly signaled the guards with his eyes, then placed all the dishes on the table. My lord, speak. The young man glanced at the middle-aged man, then crunched down on a large bone in his hand. This lowly one has a daughter. Dijon, your boss is about to get beaten up. Hurry up and help. All of a sudden, a loud shout sounded out from within the restaurant. The youth sitting on a wrought-tan chair dropped the bone almost instantly. After running 2 steps, perhaps feeling that it was a pity, he grabbed a pig's leg. Get the Liu family to settle the bill. With that, the young man charged out with the pig leg in his mouth. Yizichin, who was outside the city, shouted 3 times. The long-faced young man, who was about to make a move, was stunned. Dijon, that's not the Lord Dijon of the town. The fact that the town was able to be unified was all thanks to Lord Dijon and the Liu family. This guy is actually calling Lord Dijon. Scared, right? Huh? Yizichin looked at the long-faced guard proudly, then put his hands on his waist. The fire elemental fairy covered her face. She felt like the Emperor Star had been living a life of darkness in the dungeon for the past few years. Not only did the Emperor Star's strength increase rapidly, but he also seemed to have become a bit stupid. They're clearly just a bunch of 9th-level domain realm guards. I can deal with it with a sneeze. Why do I have to cause trouble like this? Even if I don't want to do it myself, the fire elemental fairy was more than happy to take care of these ignorant people. If it really doesn't work, she could send a transmission to Bai Yao and have the Liu family deal with them. What is he doing? Ha! You're the only one who knows Lord Dijon? After staring blankly for half a minute, the long-faced man clutched his stomach as if he were about to burst from laughter. Who do you think His Excellency Dijon is? He's one of the founding fathers of the Upheaval Alliance's 17 towns. His Excellency Dijon carved out this blueprint with his fists and feet. How dare a nobody like you get to know him? How dare you say that Lord Dijon is your little brother? I think you're really courting death. Look at you. Yi Zichen shrugged with a look of regret. You know Dizhou quite well. Do you know who destroyed the Liu family before Liu Jia became a mayor? Lord Dizhou, of course. The long-faced man cupped his hands towards the east. Who did you say? Yi Zichen glared at the fire elemental sprite. Lil Fire, look at this little bastard. He said that the Liu family was destroyed by Di-Ho. I don't know you. The fire elemental sprite turned around. When Yi Zichen saw the sprite's expression, he decided not to bicker with it. Then do you know who the Upheaval Alliance is? Lord Chicano. Go F***CK yourself. Yi Zichen slapped him on the head. The Upheaval Alliance is mine, you know? Why are you acting like an idiot? Just look at the surface. Those people you're talking about are my little brothers, understand? I think you've lost your mind. The long-faced guard slapped Yi Zichen's hand away. The Upheaval Alliance is yours, and Lord Dizhou is your little brother. Why don't you just say that this entire planet belongs to you? Hey, you're right. Yi Zichen nodded in satisfaction, then looked at the long-faced guard with a hint of approval in his eyes. This planet is mine. Of course, it's not yet, but it will be soon. Once he left the land of chaos, Yi Zichen was prepared to deal with the problems he needed to deal with here. First was Huoxia. If Huoxia didn't die, Yi Zichen wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. If he didn't die, he'd be disgusting. For the sake of that dead elemental sprite, Yi Zichen had to kill Huoxia. After that was the unification of the entire planet. Of course, this was a relatively large project. If he wanted to carry out, he needed everyone to work together and raise the Upheaval Alliance's overall strength. Unification of the entire planet. Only then could he expand to other planets. Otherwise, if he ran off without even taking care of his own planet, he'd make enemies both inside and outside. His already shaky foundation couldn't afford to fail like this. Of course, he didn't think it'd take long to unify the entire planet. In just 2 years, the Upheaval Alliance had the former chief engineer of the Virtual World Corporation. He was sure that their technology had advanced by leaps and bounds. Because technology wasn't like other industries. Once you understood it, you could start all over again, and your efficiency would increase exponentially. Furthermore, there were so many cities supplying them with resources. It was entirely possible that the Upheaval Alliance had already finished developing energy guns and weapons. They were just waiting for Yi Zichen to give them the order. Ha ha! The long-faced guard laughed uproariously. Are you really an idiot, or are you just playing the fool? The entire planet's future is yours. How dare you say that? Since you're an idiot, I can't be bothered to quibble with you. Hurry up and take your people with you and scram. Don't be an eyesore. Suddenly, Yi Zichen's expression darkened. The guard instinctively gulped. Who are you talking to? HM? Did you forget that you just got beaten up? Young man, did I make you feel too relaxed talking to you? Did I make you forget that even if everything I said just now was a lie, I can still do whatever I want to you? And you guys, what do you think? Yi Zichen tilted his head and glanced at the guards he'd just tossed out. They all gripped their weapons, but for a moment, they didn't dare answer. The long-faced guard's breathing grew ragged. I'm telling you, don't do anything rash. This is the Upheaval Alliance's city, and the Liu family guards it. If you dare attack our guards, don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Yi Zichen gently patted the dust off the guard's shoulder. Suddenly, an iron shovel fell from the sky and smashed into the ground, creating a 2-meter-long and half-meter-deep pit. At the same time, DGF frowned and walked over. He looked at the guard, who'd been scared senseless. I'll dig a hole for you. Jump yourself. Don't make me do it myself. That way, you'll die a more dignified death, and I won't have to wash my hands. My hands are covered in oil, and it took me more than half a year to make them. Chapter 2450. Lord Dizhou. The iconic shovel. Everyone in the town knew that the shovel was Lord Dizhou's weapon. When he saw the shovel, the long-faced guard was scared stiff. When he saw Dizhou land in front of him and made him jump into the pit, he was so scared that he knelt on the ground. Lord Dizhou. The guards outside also kneeled on the ground and trembled, not daring to raise their heads. Boss! Dizhou was in no mood to care about the long-faced guard. He ran over excitedly, with a joyful look in his eyes. Boss, you're finally back. I missed you to death. Is that so? Yi Zichen tilted his head and looked at Di Zhou's chubbier face. Did you miss me? Look at how chubby you are. You really ate a lot these past 2 years. It's all because of you, boss. Thus, Di Jie became the scapegoat for Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen looked at him. Speak properly. I missed you because I couldn't see boss. I missed you, but I couldn't see you, so I could only turn my longing for boss into appetite. Look, the more I eat, the more I miss boss. Di Zhou wiped away his tears with his left hand, while he secretly took a few bites of the pig leg with his right hand. CKU. Yi Zichen kicked Di Zhou's butt, then slapped him on the head. Do you have any shame? What's shame? How much can be sold for? Di Zhou smiled. If it can be sold for money, then I'll just sell it shamelessly. If it can't be sold for money, then what use do I have for it? You're King right. I actually don't know how to retort. Yi Zichen actually felt like there was nothing wrong with what Di Zhou said. Yi Zichen actually felt like there was nothing wrong with what Di Zhou said. Hee. Di Zhou laughed idiotically, then turned around and pointed at the long-faced guard, who was sitting on the ground in shock. Boss, he's the one who wants to beat you up, right? Yes, it's him. Yi Zichen reached out his hand like an elementary school student complaining. Di Zhou's expression instantly darkened. Squinting his eyes, he slowly walked up to the long-faced guard. You want to beat up my boss? You really have guts. Hurry up and jump. Don't make me unhappy. If I'm unhappy, I'll beat your head into juice with my shovel. Di Jiesman. The long-faced guard crawled up on his knees. This lowly one really didn't know that this was you. This lowly one knows his mistake. Please spare this lowly one's life. Di Zhou did not even look him in the eye. The guard hesitated for a moment, then crawled in front of Yi Zichen and kowtowed. My lord, a great person like you, please don't hold grudges against me and let me go. Hearing that, Yi Zichen squatted on the ground with a smile, then tilted his head and looked at the guard, who was about to be scared out of his wits. Scared? Weren't you quite arrogant just now? Why are you begging for mercy now? If I were you, even if Di Zhou was here, I would also point at him in my nose arrogantly and say that you too can kill me if you have the guts. Wouldn't it be more dignified to die like that? Yi Zichen patted the guard's face. The fear in the guard's eyes had already reached its peak. My lord, this lowly one really knows his mistake. Please, high platform, let me go. The long-faced guard kowtowed to the ground. Just as he kowtowed, a large number of high-ranking officials surged out of the city. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Lord Chicano, Bai Yao, Wei Yuan, and Chicano, along with many others, all walked in front of Yi Zichen. Lord Yi, City Lord. As he looked at the newcomers and the way they addressed Yi Zichen, the long-faced guard's despair grew infinitely greater. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes at the people in front of him. Chicano, this subordinate is here. Come over here. Chicano walked up behind Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen didn't doubt his loyalty in the slightest, nor did he doubt the way he handled things. He watched as Chicano was called away. Bai Yao and Wei Yuan both had a bad feeling. Lord Yi, the two of you must have had a hard time managing the town during the 2 years I was away. Yi Zichen chuckled. Not all. Bai Yao and Wei Yuan also shook their heads. During this period of time, I believe that both of your clans have developed greatly. Compared to before, have your clans expanded? It's all thanks to your guidance, Lord Yi. Bai Yao said. Don't be so nervous. I won't do anything to you. With that, Yi Zichen waved towards the girl and the elder who was pushed down. The girl supported the old man and slowly walked up. Let me ask you. Yi Zichen looked at Bai Yao and Wei Yuan. Who paid for the entrance fee? My lord, it's me, Chicano said. The entrance fee is a continuation of our Chaos City's rules. Considering that after the city is built, everything needs to be developed in a stable manner. The city's interior also needs to be repaired and maintained, which is why I proposed this idea. How much did you ask for? Yi Zichen asked. 500 star coins. All right. Yi Zichen nodded solemnly. Then did you actually pay it according to 500 as well? No. Chicano shook his head. The specifics were carried out by Bai Yao and Wei Yuan. Of course, the city lord's manor received 500 per person. Excellent. Yi Zichen's smile grew wider and wider. Then he narrowed his eyes at Bai Yao and Wei Yuan. You paid according to how much? Sir Yi, we gave the order according to Sir Chicano's suggestion, Yi Zichen said. Bai Yao hurriedly replied. Is that so? Yi Zichen smiled at her. But why'd I hear that it really was 2,000? Also, I heard that the money ended up in your Liu family's hands? You paid 500 to the city lord's manor and kept 1,500 for yourselves. The two families split it equally. You've earned quite a bit over the past 2 years, right? Your Excellency, Bai Yao's eyes were filled with terror. The Liu family definitely didn't do that. So you're saying I'm lying? Yi Zichen smiled. That's absolutely not what I meant. But, Lord Yi, please believe me. I really did follow the 500 orders, said Bai Yao. Then that's a dereliction of duty on your part. Yi Zichen's attitude towards Bai Yao didn't soften just because he'd interacted with her before. The entrance fee is 2,000 star coins in total. That's nothing. Yi Zichen smiled at Bai Yao, then turned to the girl and elder. Tell him, how much did this beast ask you for? 10,000 per person. What? Bai Yao's expression instantly changed. Yi Zichen smiled at Bai Yao. Look, this is the city I gave you to manage. Do you really think you've done your job? Chapter 2451. From Yi Zichen's words, Bai Yao could also feel that he wanted to use this to threaten the people in town. Otherwise, a small fry like the long-faced guard wasn't worth Yi Zichen getting so many people involved. Don't worry, Lord Yi. We will definitely deal with this person seriously. From today onwards, I will also reselect the civil servants in the city. I definitely won't let something like this happen again in the future. Bai Yao said confidently. Yi Zichen nodded in satisfaction, then walked to her side and patted her shoulder. I'm the future, not the Lord Yi you speak of. Remember what I said. Understood? With that, Yi Zichen and the fire elemental fairy directly entered the city. Before entering, Yi Zichen turned to Bai Yao. That girl seems to be in a bit of trouble. Deal with it properly. Understood. Understood. Yi Zichen returned to town. When Yi Zichen entered the town, he noticed that there was a huge change. All the buildings that looked like they were from ancient times had disappeared. What replaced them were modern buildings. There's progress in the research department? Yes, Lord City Lord, Chicano nodded. Right now, our city's technology has already reached the level of a level 1 civilization. Although there's still a huge gap between us and a peak-level civilization, our technology is already far ahead of this place. Level 1 civilization. Earth's civilization level was only at level 0. 5. Yi Zichen didn't expect that their technology had already surpassed Earth's in less than 3 years' time. Yi Zichen looked up. Countless airships sped through the sky, while the city was also filled with automated equipment. Not bad. Yi Zichen was very satisfied with the current situation of the city. I can't tell from the outside that it's actually so developed. Actually, our city walls are also constructed with advanced technology. The main reason why it looks like that is because we camouflaged the city walls. Chicano explained with a smile. Chicano explained with a smile. This way, we can avoid attracting the attention of others and allow them to enter our city to investigate. That's a good idea. During the time you weren't here, we also connected this area to our previous area. Right now, the residents here are already interacting with the residents that used to live there. Chicano continued to report. Yi Zichen had absolutely no qualms about leaving Chicano to handle these matters. Yi Zichen didn't have to worry about whether his actions would have an unnecessary impact. However, what Yi Zichen cared about was, Chicano, my surname is Yi. You told Bai Yao and the others about this, right? Just as Yi Zichen finished speaking, Chicano's expressionless face suddenly froze. My lord, I've thought about it for a long time, and you're the only possibility. Yi Zichen looked at Chicano with a smile and patted his shoulder. No worries, I actually don't mind. I just hope that you could try your best not to say such things to them in the future. No matter what, this is the second universe, and not the first universe we live in, right? When Yi Zichen mentioned the first universe, Chicano paused for a moment. Yi Zichen walked towards the city lord's manor with a smile. Wow, my mansion is really impressive. Regarding Yi Zichen's information, no one in the second universe knew about this. Yi Zichen hadn't said anything about himself at all. Over here, he was the future. Regardless of whether it was the residents of the second universe or the friends he made here, he was the future. All of a sudden, Bai Yao said that he was Mr. Yi. Why? There was only one possibility. Someone said his identity, and Bai Yao remembered it. Yi Zichen only had so many subordinates. Han Xing and company belonged to the second universe, so they didn't have to think about it. In that case, the only people who could possibly know about him were the people he had recruited. Chicano was the one who interacted with Bai Yao and company the most. Naturally, the first person Yi Zichen thought of was him. Yi Zichen had already suspected where these employees came from a long time ago. They definitely weren't virtual data. After the Virtual World Corporation announced the truth of the second universe's existence, it was already proven that they weren't data, but real existences. Where did they come from? They definitely came from the first universe. What surprised Yi Zichen was that Chicano actually knew about him. It might have been the Virtual World Corporation who leaked it to him, or it might have been something else. Of course, Yi Zichen wasn't really afraid. The head of the Virtual World Corporation, Wen Li, was an old friend of the Master of the Galaxy. If she knew that he was one of the Master of the Galaxy's people, then she probably wouldn't do anything bad to him. If she didn't know, then she would eventually find out. Thus, the problem returned to what I was talking about earlier. All in all, Yi Zichen wasn't afraid. The Chicanos who were named were distracted and absent-minded along the way. Chicano, this subordinate is here. I'm just asking you out of pure curiosity. If you can answer, then answer. If you can't, then I won't force you. Of course, don't worry, I still trust you. Yi Zichen said. My lord, please ask. Chicano said, you're actually a human from the first universe, right? Yes. Your student Winnie and the people I recruited are also humans from the first universe, right? Yes. Do you belong to the Virtual World Corporation? This time, Chicano didn't reply. Yi Zichen looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Okay. Then let me ask you this. Do all of you know about me? No. Chicano shook his head. Chicano shook his head. I'm the only one who knows your name. I want to ask because I wanted to know what kind of person you're loyal to. I don't know about Winnie and the others, but your general might know. But don't worry, I only know your name. I don't know anything else. Okay. Yi Zichen nodded, then let out a sigh. Do you want to come and see me in reality? It's not really convenient for this subordinate. Chicano shook his head. Hearing that, Yi Zichen nodded as well. All right, then I understand. Thus, Chicano lowered his head. Yi Zichen frowned once again. What's your strength in the first universe? You can tell me that, right? Actually, I'm rather curious. This subordinate. Chicano let out a deep sigh, as if he had made a decision. This subordinate is of the sovereign level. Chapter 2452. The fire elemental sprite was stunned. Venerable realm. That was already the peak of the human race. Yet someone like that was willing to be Yi Zichen's subordinate. It wasn't that he didn't think Yi Zichen was qualified. Absolutely. All of this was too unimaginable. Venerable. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and nodded with a smile, while Chicano stood beside him. What level is Winnie? Conferred kingship. Understand. Yi Zichen pursed his lips with a smile. Then what do you think of my decision? I want to recruit more people like you. Do you think it's possible? I understand what you mean. Chicano shook his head. But I don't recommend you do that. All right, I understand. Yi Zichen didn't ask for the reason, because he already knew everything. He already knew where Chicano and Winnie came from. It was just that he had not expected the Virtual World Corporation to be so omnipotent that they could extend their reach to such a place. Then I beg of you, recruit all the people you think are worth recruiting. Even if the universe fuses, none of you will betray me, right? This subordinate will never betray you, Chicano said solemnly. Then I'll leave it to you. As he watched Chicano leave the manor, Yi Zichen instantly collapsed to the ground. Imperial Star, don't worry about me. Yi Zichen's hands trembled as he sat on the ground. If what Chicano said was true, then even if the universe is fused, what did he have to fear? Emperor Star, are you surprised that he's a venerable? the fire elemental sprite asked. No. Yi Zichen shook his head. He was not surprised by Chicano's strength at all. Then if you knew where they came from, I believe you wouldn't be surprised. Yi Zichen smiled. The Emperor Star knows where they came from. If I'm not wrong, they came to the human race's 9th prison. The 9th prison. The fire elemental sprite was stunned. F*CK. Even Yi Zichen found it too shocking. 9th prison. The Virtual World Corporation had actually extended their hands into the 9th prison. What did they want to do? Yi Zichen guessed that the Virtual World Corporation must have made some sort of agreement with Chicano for him to be so loyal, or to save them. The Virtual World Corporation would protect their relatives in the outside world, and what they needed to do was to swear an oath with their hearts. Only then would the Virtual World Corporation be able to confirm their sincerity. Of course, at Chicano's level, he wouldn't blindly believe it. This also meant that when he swore the spirit oath, the person responsible for him in the Virtual World Corporation might have been Wenli herself. Similarly, he swore with his heart. That was the only reason why this venerable one would willingly appear with such an identity. Of course, Yi Zichen didn't feel like Chicano was assigned to him by the Virtual World Corporation. Obtain an equipment shop. Before Yi Zichen succeeded, everyone had a chance. If it wasn't for him, Chicano and Wenli might have gone to work for someone else. For some unknown reason, Yi Zichen could sense that the Virtual World Corporation was plotting something big. In this game of chess, everyone was a pawn. All of them, including Yi Zichen. I found it. At this moment, Bailey also shouted. Then, a virtual network message appeared in front of Yi Zichen. Chicano, Sage Treading C. Sent to the humans' 9th prison for economic fraud. Wenli, King Tianyan. Sent to the humans' 9th prison for economic fraud. I knew it. Yi Zichen waved his fist with all his might. The fire elemental fairy was also shocked when she saw the message. The Virtual World Corporation is too crazy. They actually reached their hands into the 9th prison. I reckon that the other prisons already belong to them. Bailey, who stood on Yi Zichen's shoulder, shouted, Lil Fire, you have the memories of a former elemental fairy king. Then you should know what Wenli is doing. Do you know? Yi Zichen asked. The fire elemental fairy shook her head. Although he had already recovered some of his memories, it didn't mean that he could remember everything. What's more, Wenli was in frequent contact with the Master of the Galaxy. The elemental fairy kings all had important roles that they had to guard, so they didn't follow the Master of the Galaxy for a long time. This Virtual World Corporation, it's really too unbelievable. The next day, after Yi Zichen asked for Chicano's identity and was asked to help Sue find trustworthy subordinates, Chicano really got into the operation. At noon, in the main hall of the City Lord's Manor, 40-odd people stood in front of Yi Zichen, all of whom Chicano had brought over personally. Sire, greetings, Lord City Lord. Yi Zichen didn't dare to be careless in front of these humans who could enter the 9th prison. Sire, these are all trustworthy people that I have a good relationship with. Chicano pointed at a one-eyed man. Chicano pointed at a one-eyed man. One-eyed, mythical, sovereign level. At that moment, Yi Zichen already knew that their titles were actually a representation of their actual strength. Mythical level, Chicano sovereign. Legendary level, Wenli was a king. Then according to this, legendary level was a king level. Outstanding was a duke. Perfect was a marquis. Elite was a count. Excellent commander. Good general. Even the weakest normal one was a warlord. Actually, from this, it could be seen that in the eyes of the Virtual World Corporation, universal warlords were the beginners of the human race. According to Chicano's introduction, there were 2 mythical creatures for legendary creatures, 16 legendary creatures, 12 excellent level creatures, 7 perfect level creatures, and 9 elite level creatures. They corresponded in this manner. Even the weakest person standing here was a titled Earl. Are these all from a 9th prison? Yi Zichen whispered into Chicano's ear. When they heard that Yi Zichen knew that they were from the 9th prison, they were stunned. Chicano wasn't too surprised either. Since Yi Zichen was suspicious, then he could use the virtual network to find out their identities. No, there are also people from the 8th and 7th prisons. If that was the case, then it might really be as Bailey had said, that the Virtual World Corporation had already infiltrated all 9 prisons of the human race. It was said that the 9 great prisons were equivalent to 1/10 of the human race's overall strength. The Virtual World Corporation had done this. When Lee want to overthrow the current supreme power of the human clan? I'm not familiar with the people in the other prisons. Some of them have already been recruited. Chicano said, "This subordinate can only find these for you. Please forgive me." Chapter 2453. Forgive me? Yi Zichen stared blankly for half a minute. How could I possibly blame you? When he saw Chicano's apologetic expression, Yi Zichen hurriedly walked up and grabbed his arm. Multiple sovereigns. There were dozens of kings and titled battle pet warriors. Even some first-rate family clans might not be able to muster such a force. Yi Zichen couldn't be happier. "Your Excellency, there's something I need to tell you in advance." Chicano was silent for a moment, then said, "You know that we're all from the human prison." Yi Zichen nodded. "No matter what the reason is, we've entered the human prison, which means we're sinners. The other prisons might be fine, but we're prisoners of the 7th, 8th, and 9th prisons. In the eyes of the human race, we've committed serious crimes." "So what?" Yi Zichen frowned. If the higher-ups of the human race come looking for trouble with us, can you guarantee our safety? Or rather, can you withstand the pressure of the human race's higher-ups?" In an instant, the other people in the City Lord's mansion also looked over. They were all waiting for Yi Zichen's answer. Pressure from the human race. Yi Zichen didn't answer right away. He needed time to seriously consider this question. If Chicano hadn't brought it up, he would have forgotten. These people were all prisoners. From what the Venerable Spirit Phoenix had told him, he knew that these prisoners might have been forced to enter the prison, or they might have been wrongly accused. It didn't matter what the reason was. In the eyes of the human race's higher-ups, in the eyes of most humans, they were heinous criminals. They were currently in the second universe of the virtual network. No one knew their identities. But if they were willing to join the upheaval alliance on the day the universes merged, would the higher-ups of the human race tolerate their existence? When that happened, the upheaval alliance would become everyone's target. Pressure from all sides would also come one after another. Whether or not Yi Zichen could withstand that pressure was the most important question. Half an hour passed. Yi Zichen pondered it silently. No one said anything to stop him. "I've thought it through." Suddenly, Yi Zichen looked up at the crowd. They looked at him, their eyes shining. They wanted to hear what he had to say. "I think this matter is actually relative." Yi Zichen hesitated for a moment, then squinted his eyes at them. "Whether or not we can withstand the pressure from the human race is also the same as whether or not the human race can withstand the pressure from us." His voice fell. Everyone was in an uproar. They never expected Yi Zichen to say something like that. "I know you, and I understand you." Yi Zichen smiled. "Actually, most of you were forced into prison, right?" Quite a few people's expressions changed. Yi Zichen laughed once more. "I know Venerable Spirit Phoenix, who is in charge of destruction. She is the commander of her 9th prison. She told me about the 9th prison a while ago. You know Boss Phone?" One Eye stepped out of the crowd and grabbed Yi Zichen's arm. "Where's Boss Phone now?" One Eye. Chicano frowned. One Eyed also realized that he was a little agitated, so he released his arm and said, "I'm sorry, I was a little emotional just now. But lad, Venerable Spirit Phoenix is very important to the 9th prison and even the 8th and 7th prisons. What did you get in contact with her a while ago?" "Almost 3 years ago," Yi Zichen replied truthfully. "Almost 3 years ago," Yi Zichen replied truthfully. He hadn't gone anywhere in the second universe for the past 2.5 years. He couldn't exactly say that it was just now. More than 2 years. One Eye's gaze turned a bit dejected. Yi Zichen smiled. "The reason why it's more than 2 years is because I've been cultivating here. You can ask Chicano about the specifics. He was one of the earliest batch of people to come here. Actually, cultivating here has a huge impact on the first universe." Chicano nodded lightly when he heard this. The surrounding experts raised their eyebrows. Yi Zichen smiled once again. "Don't worry." Yi Zichen smiled. "Venerable Spirit Phoenix is waiting for me outside. We've been together pretty much every day for the past few years. So if you need me to tell her anything, I can tell her later. What? This time, it wasn't just one eye. The others were shocked as well. Big Sis Phoenix is with you. How has Big Sis been recently? What is she busy with? Why did she suddenly leave the ninth prison? Is she already making preparations? Everyone asked at once. But Yi Zichen could tell from their words that Venerable Spirit Phoenix had mentioned her plan to them. Venerable Spirit Phoenix is already making preparations. Yi Zichen let out a deep sigh, then said. Everyone here, including Chicano, clenched their fists tightly. It was clear that they were all very excited. This is also why I said that the human race needs to consider whether they can handle the pressure we put on them, Yi Zichen chuckled. Yi Zichen chuckled. Once upon a time, all of humanity's meritorious service members were imprisoned for some nonsensical reason. If we expose all of this, will they be able to handle the public opinion of the Master's Klansmen? Also, don't forget that you are all people who stand at the peak of the universe. Are we really afraid of them in terms of strength? That's true, but we are all alone. One Eye hesitated for a moment. You are one of Big Sis Phoenix's people, so I won't treat you as an outsider. What you said just now was very nice, but you didn't consider that the human race as a whole is a colossus. We can't do anything to the human race at all. Then what about Venerable Spirit Phoenix? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and asked, didn't she also leave the human race's ninth prison alone and return to the human race's territory with all of her sins on her shoulders? She wants to take revenge for those who have died and clear the name of all of you. Hearing that, everyone fell silent. Yi Zichen looked at them silently and sensed the hesitation in their hearts. Perhaps only after they truly witnessed the strength of the human race. Only then could they truly feel reverence. They were all people who had seen it. Yi Zichen hadn't, and it was precisely because he didn't feel that kind of fear that he could say such a thing. What I said to you is very simple. As long as you serve me wholeheartedly, I can promise you that no pressure is pressure on me. Compared to the burden I bear, you guys are far too easy. Chapter 2454. Pressure. Yi Zichen already had enough on his shoulders. The burden of the entire Milky Way galaxy was on his shoulders. In the future, he'd have to face Sanyue Galaxy, Sanyue's entire alliance army. What could these human prisoners in front of him amount to? At most, they'd add a bit more weight to their bodies. Furthermore, in Yi Zichen's eyes, their existence wasn't a burden at all. Rather, they were helpers that could help him relax. At worst, he'd just rebel. He was already bound to the same warship as the Spirit Phoenix. What else did he have to be afraid of? You, just do what you're supposed to do. As for the rest, don't worry and leave it to me. Who would dare use you against us? We'll make them regret ever being born into this world. As soon as Yi Zichen said that, the others seemed to be infected by his emotions. They didn't doubt Yi Zichen's words at all. Judging from his emotions just now, he really did have that kind of determination and confidence. Guys, we've been taught a lesson by a cosmic-level youngster. No, I should say, we've been taught a lesson by our alliance head. The one-eyed Venerable grinned and cracked his neck. That's right. What do we have to be afraid of? Big Sister Phoenix already told us, so let's just make the universe a bit livelier. If we keep lowering our heads like this, the humans might even forget that we're all lions. With that, the one-eyed Venerable laughed heartily. Chicano, assign us jobs. Since we followed the alliance head, we have to shine for him. After spending millions of years in the ninth prison, my bones are rusting. Say it. Who do you want to kill? I'll take care of him right now. The one-eyed Venerable was full of heroic spirit. Chicano's eyes revealed an inexplicable smile. Go work at an equipment store. The one-eyed Venerable, who'd been ready to go all out, was dumbfounded. What did you just say? Staff, I'm a dignified Venerable one, and you're telling me to become an employee of an equipment store? Aren't you overusing me? Not just you, all of you. Chicano pointed at the people in front of him. All of you have to be employees. Of course, Moulet is slightly better. He knows alchemy, so he can be an alchemist in the medicine shop. Sure. A king-ranked young man clenched his fists tightly. No, Chicano. We're old friends. It's fine if you don't want me to be a general, but you want me to do odd jobs? The one-eyed venerable curled his lips. Are you kidding me? What else do you want? Chicano spread his hands. This is the second universe, not the first universe we are in. You're only at the star level now. Who can you beat? Only now did everyone notice that their strength, which everyone had to look up to in the first universe, had greatly shrunk here. One-eyed supremacy was still fine. It was a star level. The others were all domain level. Damn, I'm only at the third level domain realm? The titled level young man frowned. That's too much. That's why I said, be good employees, Chicano smiled. Of course, if you can raise your strength here, I can consider putting you in an important position. It's just that it won't be possible in the short term. You don't even have the right to guard a city. Unlucky. The one-eyed venerable waved his hand. Don't even think about making me an employee. It's just raising my strength. I'm a supremacy, so I can only cultivate again. Let's go. Those who want to level up with me, follow me. The group of people left the city Lord's Manor. Chicano did not stop them, while Yi Zichen looked at them with a smile. There won't be a problem, right? Don't worry, my lord. Chicano smiled. No matter what, they are experts of the first universe. They might not be strong, but they still have their memories. Even if the people of the second universe are at the star system level, they will not be able to take advantage of them. What I'm saying is, aren't you going to give them some weapons? As soon as he said that, Chicano froze on the spot for half a minute. I really forgot about that. Then hurry up and go. Do you want them to fight those ferocious beasts with their fists? Yi Zichen couldn't help but facepalm. Chicano was usually very meticulous. Why did he suddenly scatter them all over the place? Never mind. To his surprise, Chicano didn't care at all. With one-eyed here, they won't have any problems. City Lord, let's talk about proper business. Proper business? Fire Scorpion. Chicano smiled. In the wilderness outside the town, a human army of 2 million appeared in front of Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen looked at the vast army. He couldn't help but let out a sigh. City Lord, this is the vanguard army that was assembled during your 2 years of seclusion. There are 2 million of them. Chicano pointed at the soldiers outside. All of them were from the second universe. There were no players from the first universe mixed in. The main reason was that the players weren't strong enough. They could only enter the vanguard army. Even the weakest was 9th level of the galaxy. Chicano, what's going on? Yi Zichen was completely dumbfounded. 9th level of the galaxy? Universe level. Where did all these people come from? After all, before he went into seclusion, he couldn't even find a cosmic system level, much less a 9th level galaxy. But now, 2 million 9th level galaxy experts had suddenly appeared. This is, Your Excellency, actually, before reaching the general level, you can increase your strength through systematic training. Chicano smiled. This subordinate was fortunate enough to be the instructor of a human assault army in the foreign battlefields, so I know some training methods. That's too ridiculous. Just 2 years of systematic training was all it took for these people to become like this. If I could bring Chicano to the Milky Way galaxy. Of course, there's another important reason. The humans here don't have the perfect education methods we have. They use the dumbest methods to increase their strength bit by bit. They actually have a lot of cosmic energy stored in their bodies that they haven't fully used. This subordinate's training method just so happens to be able to fully activate the energy in their bodies, allowing them to obtain their current strength. Chicano, you really are a genius. Yi Zichen grabbed Chicano's shoulder. Forget exterminating the fire scorpion, even if they attacked another life planet. He was confident. Is everyone here? Not yet. Chicano smiled. There's also the middle and rear army. There's a total of 5,700,000. Currently, 3 million are training in Miss Lil N's lair, while 2,700,000 are tempering their bodies in the lightning secret realm Lu Biao provided. These 2 million are the vanguard army. If there isn't enough people, this subordinate will continue to send more. Chapter 2455. 5,700,000 soldiers. This was the current strength of the Upheaval Alliance. They're all 9th-stage galaxy cultivators. It's not that exaggerated. Chicano laughed and shook his head. The vanguard is an elite. That's why they're so strong. The rest of the army is a bit weaker. This was his answer. Yi Zichen let out a sigh of relief. Although he was somewhat disappointed, this was more like it. If they had 5,700,000 cosmic-level soldiers in 2.5 years, that number was a bit too terrifying. How strong are they? Asked Yi Zichen. They're probably all 5th-stage galaxy cultivators, or higher. Chicano thought for a moment, then gave what he thought was the most reliable answer. They might also be 6th stage. I haven't been there in a while, so I'm not sure. Damn, 5th-stage galaxy cultivators, or higher. If he had such an army in the Milky Way, he wouldn't have to live his life in fear. In truth, Chicano didn't quite understand Yi Zichen's surprise. The way he saw it, in just 2 years, using this method to raise humans to the 9th stage of the galaxy or 1st stage of the universe was perfectly normal. Humanity faced attacks from many different races in the outer realms. They could stand strong for a long time. They hadn't allowed any other races to invade any of humanity's life planets. They relied on this sort of special training method. As for numbers, that was even less surprising. Each life planet had 6 billion people. In special times, such as war, it was possible for every human on the planet to become a soldier. Right now, the Upheaval Alliance controlled 27 cities. Any one of those cities had tens of millions of people living in them. Plus, they had good benefits. Even just 10% of the soldiers were still in the tens of millions. They only had 5,700,000 soldiers. Including the city guards, they had less than 10 million. Little did they know, Yi Zichen wasn't born and raised in the universe. He didn't measure strength based on the universe as a whole, but rather on Earth. In this way, I would not be shocked. After a long while, Yi Zichen finally calmed his racing heart. He knew very well that he was no longer that young man from Earth. He was now standing in the universe. All of this was natural. All right, then how we head out? City Lord, please look up. Chicano then pointed to the void outside the town, under the clear sky. Just as Chicano finished speaking, tens of thousands of spaceships suddenly appeared. This is the result of our city's scientific research department's recent research. Invisible spaceship. The entire spaceship is forged with a 6th-grade materials and inside. Wait a minute. Yi Zichen couldn't help but interrupt Chicano's speech. Invisible spaceship? Yes. Chicano's eyes were also shining with excitement. I have to mention our chief engineer, Mr. Meng Tai. Mr. Meng has combined our Universe One's airship technology. Another camouflage function has been added to the surface of the spaceship. City Lord, please look. Yi Zichen looked towards Chicano's hand, then saw a spaceship land on the ground. Ship camouflage. It can turn the surface of the spaceship into an image similar to the environment. As Chicano spoke, the ship began to transform. Yi Zichen could only watch as it disappeared from his sight. Reaching out his hand, he could touch the spaceship, using environmental camouflage to turn invisibility. This subordinate hastily named it Invisible Spaceship. Chicano said, "Does this count as a new technology?" This subordinate thinks so. Chicano nodded. But Meng Tai said it's not. He said that the Virtual World Corporation had suggested this idea before, but it wasn't adopted. Why? At least from what Yi Zichen could see, this technology was pretty good. There were no flaws in the camouflage at all. They could use this technology to catch the enemy off guard. It was not hard to imagine. He only had a few hundred people with him, and the enemy had already left the team and sent people to surround them. Suddenly, countless spaceships appeared in the sky. It directly turned into a counterattack. Very useful technology. Meng Tai said that the person who overturned this technology was the Virtual World Corporation's chief engineer. He said that the human universe's radar can easily detect the existence of spaceships. If you have the time and energy to complain about environmental camouflage, you might as well add anti-detection devices to the spaceships. Yi Zichen couldn't find any problems with this reply. Yi Zichen couldn't find any problems with it. It could be said that the Virtual World Corporation's idea of using engineering was not wrong. However, Yi Zichen felt that adding this technology would actually increase the strength of spaceships and warships, so there was no problem with it. Can I add this technology while researching anti-detection? Next time you see Meng Tai, tell him that I really like this function of his and that I support all of his research. Anything that wasn't adopted in the first universe can be tested here. That's what Mengtai did, Chicano smiled. When Chicano heard that, he smiled and he said that the technology here is still in its infancy, and that some of the technologies he has in his hands are just right for now. As long as you support it with resources, he will bring you even more surprises. Here, since the chief engineer said that, it was clear that he felt that the resources were not enough. In the future, give all of the city's resources to the research department. As long as they need it, we will give it to them 100%. City Lord, are you sure about this? Chicano frowned. The operations of our city require resources as well. The blacksmiths also need metals to forge. If we give all of the resources to the research department, give it all to him. Yi Zichen was determined. So long as he can bring us any surprises, the resources will be worth it. What's more, when I say give it, I don't mean give it all. We can leave some for the city and the blacksmiths. I trust you can handle that. All right. Chicano smiled and nodded. Then I'll continue with my report. These spaceships are all made of A6 grade metal, which means they can withstand 6-layer domain attacks. Their defenses are a bit lacking, but we've been using them to carry people and things for a while now. In truth, they're quite useful. I understand. The Upheaval Alliance's technology was currently blossoming on many fronts. They were currently preparing for war, which was why they'd forged some in case of emergency. Later on, higher-grade products would definitely appear. When that happened, they'd have to replace their equipment. Smelting high-grade metals would be a bit of a waste, but A6 grade metals like this wouldn't hurt at all. Chapter 2456. A 6-grade metal. It was a basic grade metal in the universe, just like the silver mines on Earth, which were all grade B grade metals were like gold mines. Metals like A6 grade were mostly used for household use in the universe. They were rarely used in war. The main reason was that their defense was too weak. The battles within the universe, under normal circumstances, were all at the universe level and above. This A6 grade ship was flying out. If an A6 grade metal was used, how many people would be on board? How many people would die? Fortunately, Yi Zichen was in the second universe. There was no concept of technology here, so the use of spaceships was only to carry people, which was acceptable. The ones who would truly fight would still be the 2 million soldiers in front of Yi Zichen. This time, we deployed 10,000 spaceships. Each spaceship can carry 200 people, which is just enough to send all of our people to the battlefield. They're all so small. Yi Zichen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he heard that number. In the first universe, spaceships carrying people usually carried over 1,000 people. Their spaceships directly shrunk by a fifth. The project is rather rushed, and large spaceships are rather time-consuming. Spaceships also need to be smelted in the future, so Mengtai didn't get the blacksmith to make large ones. Understood. Actually, he had just asked casually. If he didn't say anything, then it would be like he didn't exist. It's just that these people gave him too many surprises. In the beginning, he was shocked. But from now on, he was already waiting for Chicano to bring him even more surprises. He was waiting for the city's research department, something that could make him feel excited. Is there anything else? When Yi Zichen asked this question, he was already hoping that Chicano would give him a definite answer in the depths of his heart. Seeing the anticipation in Yi Zichen's eyes, Chicano smiled. A smile appeared in Chicano's eyes. Since the City Lord was looking forward to the surprise they would give, how could he disappoint the City Lord? Of course there is. With that, Chicano waved towards the burly man standing at the very front of the vanguard. City Lord, Lord Chicano. The person ran over and stopped in place, then greeted Yi Zichen and Chicano. City Lord, this is Seuss. He is the main character chosen by me from the many participants. His power is at universe level 6, and he is the pinnacle existence in the Vanguard army. More importantly, he is born with the ability to lead. He is definitely a talented commander who can control an army. Until now, he has not reached the limit of what he can control. Shows also nodded towards Yi Zichen and Chicano meticulously. Yi Zichen looked at the middle-aged man in front of him in surprise. To tell the truth, Yi Zichen didn't sense anything special about him. He looked like an ordinary middle-aged man. If he was thrown into a crowd, he would definitely not stand out. Who would have thought that Chicano would actually hold him in such high regard, and that he was even a Universe Stage 6 master? Seuss kept smiling in a simple and honest manner. Chicano glanced at Yi Zichen a few times, then smiled. City Lord, don't be fooled by his honest appearance. After wielding an army, my entire person is different. As soon as he finished speaking, Chicano gave Seuss a look. Seuss immediately understood. He placed his hand on a pink rod on his waist. Yi Zichen had noticed this rod a long time ago, but he didn't think that this rod was an item that Chicano needed to introduce. Seuss took out the rod. Only when Seuss took out the rod did Yi Zichen notice that it wasn't a rod at all, but a laser gun. Yi Zichen had seen this type of laser gun in the universe before. He had wanted to buy one to defend himself, but it was truly too expensive. He didn't seem to need one in the short term, so he didn't buy it. I didn't think that the Upheaval Alliance already had this sort of technology. I believe that City Lord can tell as well. That's right, this is a laser gun. It was designed by our chief engineer Meng Tai and given to our temporary department, which is the smithy, to make. What grade? Yi Zichen asked. C9. All of a sudden, Yi Zichen's breathing became rapid. C9. In other words, they already have a weapon that can insta-kill a level 9 galactic expert. Is it fully equipped? Yi Zichen said. No. Chicano shook his head. Chicano shook his head. The forging of a C9 grade laser gun requires a lot of resources and energy. The energy and resources we have are limited. Considering the future development, we have forged 2,000 C9 grade laser guns this time and given them to the generals of the Vanguard. All right. Yi Zichen sighed in his heart. It was indeed a bit greedy of him to want to equip a C9 laser gun that cost 2 million in 2 short years. Also, even if they had enough resources, they still needed to consider the time needed to forge it. The forging department in Chaoyang City was still too lacking. The equipment for the city guards, the equipment for the expeditionary forces, the spaceships, the laser guns. All of these required the smithy to complete. This amount of work was quite a bit of pressure for them. Let's expand the forging department in the future. Yi Zichen mentioned it when he thought about the increase in the demand for forging in Chaoyang City. This subordinate is already working on it. Chicano smiled. Yi Zichen nodded. It seems like my actions were unnecessary. With Chicano here, he should be able to relax. As the acting city lord, he should be able to take care of these things. City Lord, this subordinate wasn't finished yet. Chicano suddenly smiled. Yi Zichen nodded and signaled him to continue. Even though we don't have C9 laser guns for all of our members, but we do have C3 ones. Meng Tai also made adjustments to the energy supply. Normal laser guns can only fire 5 shots before needing to be recharged. Our laser guns can fire 10 shots, which means that the amount of energy ammo has doubled. At the same time, our energy consumption did not increase. It is still 5 shots, but we can fire 10 shots. What? Yi Zichen stared at Chicano with eyes filled with indescribable fear. Actually, this could be seen as saving twice the amount of energy. This sort of technology was definitely good news for the future resource consumption of the Upheaval Alliance. Yi Zichen was shocked. What greeted him was a long silence. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh. He truly couldn't imagine why the Virtual World Corporation would give up on such a genius. Does that mean the chief engineer of the Virtual World Corporation is better? If that's the case, just who is he? Meng Tai is a genius. After a long sigh, Yi Zichen suddenly spoke up. The Upheaval Alliance is willing to become the place where he can realize his dreams and ambitions. Chapter 2457. It didn't matter how the Virtual World Corporation viewed Meng Tai. In Yi Zichen's eyes, he was an incoherent genius. The ship's camouflage function, as well as the laser gun's energy consumption, were both genius moves. Unfortunately, Meng Tai didn't truly belong to him. Hua Jianrou had lent Meng Tai to him, and he was still staying with her family. Yi Zichen considered the possibility that Meng Tai might leave the Upheaval Alliance. He really couldn't imagine whether the upheaval alliance would be able to withstand such a blow. He had to think of a way to make Meng Tai stay. Given Meng Tai's former status, money held no allure for him at all. He was strong to begin with, and he held a high position in the Virtual World Corporation. Rare treasures. Given Yizichin's current level, he might not even be able to take out anything that might catch his eye. He felt like, if he wanted to keep Meng Tai, the only way was to let him do whatever he wanted. Yizichin could sense the upheaval alliance's absolute trust in him. He left the Virtual World Corporation. It seemed he hadn't been able to achieve his ambitions. The chief engineer had overshadowed him, so much so that he hadn't been able to put his brilliant ideas to good use. In Yizichin's eyes, he was the boss. When it came to technology, his words were absolute. He didn't care about the process, no matter how terrible it was. As long as he could see the results, that was enough. City Lord. Yizichin was lost in thought when Chicano called him back. He looked up and smiled at him. What is it? It seems you didn't hear what I said just now, said Chicano with a smile. Chicano smiled and said, this subordinate just said that our vanguard army of 2 million soldiers is not only equipped with laser guns, but also a full set of Star System grade purple tier equipment. In terms of equipment, our vanguard army is the best out of all of them. The blacksmiths, all forged together? Yizichin arched his brows. That's right. Chicano laughed. This bearded dwarf has given us far too many surprises. So long as we give him the blueprints of our research department, there's nothing he can't make. He's also made quite a few blueprints. So long as we provide him with enough resources, he can forge even better equipment. Resources, more resources. Meng Tai's research department needed a lot of resources, and so did his blacksmiths. He had thought that he would occupy 27 cities. Their resources could be alleviated to a certain extent, but now it seemed that they were still lacking too much. If only Chicano could follow him to the Milky Way. Inside the Milky Way galaxy, there was a large amount of resources stored, but no one was mining them. There were hundreds of billions of stars there. There were countless planets. Even if Yizichin returned to the Milky Way and sent people to mine for resources, they wouldn't be able to detect the existence of rare resources with their current technology. Even if they found it, no one would recognize it. The Milky Way galaxy was definitely a great treasure, but Yizichin still didn't have the key to it. If Chaos City could obtain the resources of the Milky Way, they did not need to worry about resources at all. City Lord, you don't have to be too anxious. All forces are like this at the beginning, not to mention that we're speeding up. Chicano smiled and comforted him. I think with our current force, it won't be a problem to occupy this life star. After we occupy this life star, we can relieve our shortage of resources. We also have spaceships, so we can plunder resources from other planets. Understood. What Chicano didn't know was that Yizichin wasn't lamenting about their lack of resources, but rather the treasures of the Milky Way galaxy. Yizichin let out a long sigh. Yizichin suddenly thought of something very important. Oh yeah, Chicano. City Lord, please speak. We still need to control the extraction of resources. We need to use some non-renewable resources sparingly. Don't let this planet's resources dry up in order to obtain more. Can I ask why? Asked Chicano. If I'm not wrong, we have to live in the second universe in the future, not the first universe. If we extract all the resources here, how are we supposed to live in the future? This is our headquarters, replied Yizichin. It was obvious from Chicano's shocked expression that he definitely didn't know about this. Actually, the only reason Yizichin knew about this was because of the venerable spirit phoenix. The first universe was going to be destroyed. If humans wanted to survive, they had to come to the second universe. No wonder. After a brief moment of silence, Chicano nodded. This subordinate has also received news that many peak families in the universe are pouring large amounts of resources into this place. At the start, this subordinate was very confused as to why they would do so, but now I understand. You can still receive news from Prison 9. Yizichin was shocked. It's all thanks to the venerable spirit phoenix, Chicano smiled. When the venerable spirit phoenix was the commander-in-chief, she allowed us to enter the virtual network to have some fun. Of course, We used anonymous helmets. Every year, the Venerable Spirit Phoenix would send people to buy large amounts of helmets for us to use. Otherwise, how could we have lived in a place like that for so long? I see. Hearing that, Yi Zichen nodded. City Lord, this subordinate has already told you everything I can. This is the full power of our city's vanguard. This subordinate estimates that we will definitely win this battle. Chicano smiled. Now, all we have to do is wait for City Lord to give the order to march. From now on, it's time for us to take the first step in conquering the universe. Let this planet witness our power. As he spoke, Chicano took 2 steps back and waited for Yi Zichen's order. Several million pairs of eyes looked towards him, causing Yi Zichen's blood to boil. Dijo, big bro, I'm here. A silver shovel fell from the sky, while Dijo walked in front of Yi Zichen with a gust of wind. Take the money. Did he just throw 200 million star coins into Dijo's hands? Find the location of fire pyrolite for me. Dijo grabbed the money pouch and closed his eyes, causing the coins to disappear from his hands. Found it. Give me the coordinates. Dijo told Yi Zichen the coordinates. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes with a smile, then raised his right fist high above his head. Everyone board the ship. The 2 million-strong army entered the spaceships. Yi Zichen clenched his fist tightly, then walked onto one of the spaceships and looked in the direction Dijo gave him. Depart. Chapter 2458. Half a month passed. The Upheaval Alliance's vanguard possessed invisible spaceships and laser guns. As soon as the battle began, they were destined to be swept aside. Surrender. Gather the resources. Surrender. Gather the resources. That was what the Upheaval Alliance had been doing all this time. In order to ensure that the vanguard had sufficient numbers, they'd left the defense of the resource zones to the rest of the army of 3. 7 million. However, up until now, they still hadn't seen Huixia. I never would have guessed the guy was hiding so deeply. Yi Zichen stood in the wilderness and looked out at the forest of vicious beasts. Over the past half-month, they'd already broken through 3 defenses and reached the 5th region of the planet. It was as if Huixia had vanished from the face of the planet. Never mind Yi Zichen. He hadn't even seen a single one of Huixia's subordinates. Han Qing. Yes, sir. Han Qing had been assigned to this battle as a follow-up. They'd conquered a large number of cities and needed Chicano to stay behind to manage them. Han Qing had been assigned to this task as well. It's worth mentioning that Han Qing was already at the first layer of the universe, and he'd gained his strength through Chicano's systematic training. Have you confirmed the integrity of the investigation? Have you really not seen any of Huixia's subordinates? I'm sure. Han Qing nodded solemnly. I've already sent people to investigate thoroughly. There really is no one with a flame imprint. That's strange. Yi Zichen frowned. Based on the speed of their advance and the coordinates Dijo had given them, they should have met up with Huixia by now. How could they not have seen any of Huixia's subordinates? He naturally didn't doubt Han Qing's ability to do his job. He was just curious. There are still a few more cities we haven't conquered. There's only one left, replied Han Qing. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, he said, reporting to the city lord, we've conquered the last city as well. Let's go take a look. There were far fewer cities in the inner regions than in the outer regions. The size of the cities and the overall strength of the residents were naturally incomparable to the outer regions. When Yi Zichen's army entered, the surrounding residents looked at them with dread. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes as he walked in the center, then looked at the many children in the city, whose eyes were filled with reverence. Don't harm any of the residents. I understand. Han Qing nodded. All right, let's begin the investigation. Han Qing led the others away. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes and released the power of the universe. What surprised him was that the strongest person in the city was actually a level 6 nebula. Maybe in Liujia town, this kind of power couldn't be resisted. In the 5th district, which was already the core of the planet, how could the strongest person be at the 6th level of the nebula system? When they attacked the next area, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. He had already encountered a level 7 nebula cultivator. It couldn't be that the higher the grade of the region, the weaker the strength of the residents. This was simply impossible. There was also the number of people in the city. It seemed to be a little less. He sat quietly on a house in the town, waiting for Han Qing to return and report to him. About 2 hours later, "How is it?" Yi Zichen quickly called out when he saw Han Qing return. Han Qing shook his head lightly. Yi Zichen's gaze darkened. "Dijia, what's wrong, boss?" Dijou ran over with the shovel, then subconsciously blanked out when he saw Yi Zichen's gaze. "Boss, I brought this chicken leg myself. I didn't steal it." "I'm not asking about your chicken leg. Are you sure the coordinates you gave me back then were accurate?" "Of course." Dijou nodded vigorously. "The coordinates I gave you are absolutely accurate." "Boss, you can't possibly not trust me, right?" "It's not that I don't trust you." In truth, Yi Zichen didn't even know what to say. It didn't matter if Dijou's coordinates were accurate or not. They'd always surrounded the city. So long as they pushed deeper, they would definitely see Huoxie. But up until now, he hadn't seen him. "Daddy, I want Daddy." At that moment, a young girl in the city clutched her mother's arm and burst into tears. Several soldiers stood in front of them, conducting a second round of questioning. Their method of questioning was rather polite. Perhaps because the girl was relatively young, she was a bit scared, so she started crying. Yi Zichen leaped down. When the soldiers saw Yi Zichen, they respectfully greeted him. "Your Excellency, you can leave. Go and check on the others." The soldiers left. Yi Zichen smiled and squatted down, then gently wiped away the girl's tears. "Don't be scared. Uncles just wanted to see if you were controlled by bad people or not. We're all good people." Yi Zichen gently pinched the girl's cheeks. Yi Zichen took out a few sugar balls. "Here." The girl stopped crying when she saw Yi Zichen smile, then reached out to hold the sugar balls. "Good girl." Yi Zichen caressed the girl's face, then looked up towards the woman beside her with a smile. "How old is she?" "A bit over 6, the woman replied rather nervously. The woman was a little uneasy when she answered. She had never experienced something like this in all her years. She was just a normal housewife and was only at the 5th level of the domain realm. She was afraid when she saw so many galaxy and universe levels. "This is a good time." Yi Zichen's tone was very gentle. When he saw the girl, he also thought of his future children. Yi Zichen patted the girl's head, then stood up. "Where did her daddy go?" The woman pursed her lips without saying anything. Yi Zichen smiled when he saw her expression. "You don't have to be so nervous. Everything I said just now was true. We're good people. We came here to save you." The woman continued to purse her lips without saying anything. Yi Zichen let out a deep sigh. "Let me ask you this. Have you felt that your husband's behavior has been rather strange recently? Or rather, did he gain some sort of mark on his body? Did his abilities change in any way?" From start to finish, the woman did not speak. Suddenly, the girl reached out her hand with a smile. I know. Daddy has a pattern that looks like a flame on his body. Daddy can also set fire." "Lilia." The woman yanked the girl. Yi Zichen's eyes instantly widened, then grabbed the woman's arm. "Big sis, it's not that I'm trying to scare you, but if you insist on hiding it, you might harm your husband. Having that flame mark isn't a good thing. It's a method to control the soul. Your husband is actually a puppet right now." Chapter 2459. The woman pursed her lips and remained silent. However, from her gaze and the girl's words, Yi Zichen was already certain that Huoxie's subordinates were present. "Seriously, I don't know why you're silent. Someone might have asked or threatened you to do so. I respect your decision, but I have to tell you, even if you remain silent, I can still find them." The woman bit her lips. She clenched her fists. Yi Zichen gave her another half a minute, but she still didn't say anything. "All right, if you don't want to say, then I won't ask. It's just a pity that I can clearly save your husband, but you missed this chance." With that, Yi Zichen turned to leave. "Han Qing, no need to check anymore. Let's continue." "Understood." Han Qing received the order and left. The woman bit her lips when she saw that Yi Zichen was about to leave. Wait a moment. A smile flashed across Yi Zichen's face when he heard the woman's call, but his gaze remained cold. "What is it? You? Can you really save my husband?" The woman clenched her fists and placed them on her chest. Recently, my husband has truly become very strange. His strangeness makes me feel afraid. I feel like that isn't him at all, but I said it from the start. I came to save you. Her words might have been an exaggeration. Yi Zichen wasn't so noble as to save the people from disaster. His reason for pursuing Huo Xie was very simple. He wanted to kill him. Yi Zichen felt disgusted just by living. If he didn't get rid of this rat that liked to hide in the gutter, then who knew what kind of trouble he would bring to Yi Zichen in the future. As for saving the others, it was purely out of convenience. While they were fighting for resources, they were also reorganizing and managing the planet, using it as their base of operations in preparation for the future StarCraft. However, these words were exactly what the commoners needed. For example, the woman in front of him. "All right, I believe you," the woman panted. The woman panted heavily and trembled. "My husband joined a kingdom organization some time ago." "Kingdom?" Yi Zichen frowned. "Yes, we've never heard of this kingdom either." "What kingdom?" "The Empire of Fire." The woman exhaled deeply. "If I remember correctly, this is the name of the kingdom. 2 years ago, this kingdom claimed to be from the core circle and came here to recruit personal guards. Anyone who can become the king's personal guard has the right to live in the inner circle." "Continue," Yi Zichen asked. "The requirements to be a personal guard are very strict. They need to be at least at the star system level 6 or above. My husband only joined the kingdom last year. The flame brand you mentioned just now was branded by the kingdom's great mage. It said that it can receive the kingdom's blessing and control the power of fire. Great Taoist master. This was definitely the fire pyrolysis." Yi Zichen understood. The woman was still talking to herself. "In the beginning, it was pretty good. My husband joined the personal guard group, and the commission he received was more than 10 times that of before. The living conditions of the family had also been greatly improved. Furthermore, what the great master said was true. On the 3rd day of possessing the flame imprint, my husband was able to use the power of flames. You know, in order to control the elemental lands, one has to be at least at the advanced universe level. My husband was able to do it at the star system level. This caused him to acknowledge the kingdom to an insane degree. It wasn't just my husband. Everyone who joined the personal guard group in our town, including the other towns, acknowledged the kingdom to the point of going insane. They would promote the kingdom as they pleased. Anyone who slandered the kingdom would be beaten up, while the more serious ones would be killed. Even if it was me, I only said a few words and asked him if he had seen that kingdom before, but he didn't say anything. Because he's never been to the core circle before, he hit me with just one sentence. In the past, he would never hit me, not even when he was talking loudly. According to my observations, every time he released flames, his actions would become more and more twisted. I tried to persuade him to use it less, but he didn't listen at all. It was most likely because the flame imprint was a method of corrosion. When the flame imprint was first placed, it would grant him a certain amount of control over flames. However, as long as you used it, the flames would corrode your heart and mind. In the end, you would be completely under Huo Xie's control. Back in the newbie village, Huo Xie might very well have used this method to make everyone in the village respect him without the slightest bit of doubt. That imprint is actually a way to corrode their hearts, Yi Zichen explained to the woman. The more he uses it, the more it corrodes his body. In the end, his heart will be completely controlled. Even if he wants to break free, he won't be able to. Then, can my husband be saved? The woman asked nervously. It should be possible. Yi Zichen hesitated for a moment, then replied. This sort of spiritual shackles will naturally be undone once the caster dies. To tell you the truth, the town I was once in was controlled by him. I experienced that kind of tragedy, and I don't want our town to suffer the same fate again, which is why I decided to end his life. Now, I need you to tell me, where is that great master? He's not in town right now, said the woman. He left? Yes, he left the town 3 days ago and took all of the kingdom's personal guards with him. My husband is one of them. They asked us not to reveal their whereabouts. The woman crossed her arms and said worriedly, My lord, will my husband be able to come back alive? I'm really scared. Don't worry. Yi Zichen smiled towards the woman. Yi Zichen smiled at the woman, then his gaze darkened. It seems like Huixie already knows that I'm marching. He should also know that they're coming for me. Is that why he gathered his forces in advance in preparation for the final battle? What a sly guy. No wonder I didn't see a single one of his subordinates. He took them all away. Then do you know the direction of their empire? The woman shook her head silently, then reached out her hand. I only remember that my husband left from the north gate. There were a lot of people there, at least several 100,000. You bitch. You actually dared to leak the empire's secrets. Suddenly, a furious roar sounded out from the sky, and a pillar of fire descended from the sky. Yi Zichen immediately hugged the woman. The flames landed on his cloak. Looking up, he saw a dense crowd of people standing in the air, their palms burning with flames. Right in front of them was the old man with the smile on his face. Brat, long time no see. Chapter 2460. In the sky. The white-robed Huixie stood in the sky. Surrounding him were tens of thousands of human experts in white robes, all of which were embroidered with flame marks. Hurry up and leave. Yi Zichen let go of the woman in his arms. The woman looked up at the man beside Huixie, and tears flowed down from her eyes. Daddy! The girl waved her hand toward the sky. The man's eyes were filled with disdain, while his expression was filled with disdain. I'm not your father. Go live with that bitch. You bitch, you actually dared to leak the Empire's military intelligence to the enemy. I should have killed you before I left. You. The woman instantly froze. Yi Zichen patted her shoulder. He's already been corroded too deeply by the flame imprint. Don't mind it now. Hurry up and leave. My lord, please save my husband. Do your best. The man in the sky still wanted to kill them as he watched the mother and daughter leave. The moment he did so, Yi Zichen took out his sword and sent a strand of sword energy into the sky. No matter what, they are your wife and daughter. Even if your heart was devoured by Huixie, you can't be so heartless, right? With that, Yi Zichen looked up at Huixie. You finally came out. City Lord. Seeing the commotion, Han Qing and the others immediately rushed over. Yi Zichen stepped into the sky and stood several 100 meters away from Huixie. Han Qing and company also rose into the sky and looked at Huixie and company with bright eyes. Heh, with such a mighty army, it seems like the crusade against me is inevitable. Huixie squinted his eyes and smiled casually. I didn't expect you to have grown so much in 3 years. It was quite a big mistake for the purge plan to not get rid of you. That's what I wanted to tell you as well. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes. The novice village purge plan. I have to say, Huixie did everything perfectly. At the very last moment, the Virtual World Corporation and the Universe Union Bank called for experts. This caused the purge plan to fail. Not getting rid of Huixie during that period of time was definitely a huge mistake. If I could have killed him then. Otherwise, this situation wouldn't have happened. Look at the people standing around him. From their eyes, it was impossible to see that they still had any semblance of intelligence. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Huixie threw his head back and laughed loudly. You really dare to fight me? Do you think I'm bluffing? In an instant, the 2 million vanguard soldiers all took out their weapons. A solemn and austere aura lingered above the city. The white-robed Huixie watched silently. When he squinted at Yi Zichen, he seemed to have a venomous tongue. Letting Yi Zichen develop as he pleased was definitely his biggest mistake. Clearly, at the very beginning, crushing Yi Zichen would have been as easy as flipping his hand. There was no need to wait until now. They could already stand in front of him and clamor. All right, I accept you. Huixie nodded. Yi Zichen also smiled. Is this white robe the morning clothes you prepared for yourselves? Morning clothes? Huixie tilted his head. You're pretty good at what you said, but it's a pity that it wasn't prepared for us. Ignoring me, will you kill these people? Didn't you just promise that woman that you would rescue her husband? I only need to kill you. Yi Zichen reached out his hand, and a golden longsword appeared in his palm. The moment the longsword appeared, the heavens and earth changed. Ha ha, don't be in such a hurry. This time, I'm actually here to give you a generous gift. Suddenly, the town beneath their feet was ablaze with raging flames. The citizens in the city were instantly thrown into chaos. Yizichin looked down. Huisie squinted his eyes. This white robe is actually prepared for them. How can I bear the sins of several cities? Just treat this white robe as sending them off. Huisie, ha ha ha. You should thank me. I slaughtered these useless animals. When the time comes for our real battle, you don't have to worry too much. I'll be waiting for you in the Empire in the core region. Sire, Han Qing frowned. Save them. Yi Zichen clenched his fist tightly and looked at the place Huisie left. At that moment, the water elemental sprite had already left his body. It controlled all the fire elements in the world. It started to rain cats and dogs. 7 cities, all of them were engulfed in flames. Even though Yi Zichen had already made the most urgent preparations, there were still many casualties in the cities, and countless citizens were buried in the sea of fire. Several hours passed. Only then did the situation in the cities get slightly better. Yi Zichen immediately contacted Chicano and told him to send people over to treat them. City Lord, the fire has been put out. The water elemental sprite played a huge role in putting out the fire in such a short period of time. It controlled the rain for a long time. It caused the water elemental sprite to feel tired. Yi Zichen quickly told him to go back and rest, then looked at Han Qing and the surrounding soldiers. Boarding. Dijo, give me Huisie's exact coordinates. State Preceptor, why are you doing this? Is someone attacking the Empire? At the core region, the Emperor stood in front of Huisie, while Huisie sat on the throne. All the soldiers in the Empire had already been deployed to the surroundings of the cities, while the entire Empire was on full alert. Your Majesty, did you contact your father? Huisie squinted his eyes and asked. The Emperor nodded. I have already contacted my father. State Preceptor, someone is really attacking the Empire? Where did those lowly commoners get their guts from? Do they want to rebel? All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Huisie interrupted the king mercilessly. At that moment, he was also extremely worried. Hurry up and contact your father. I don't think that the Empire can hold them off for long with this bit of military strength. What Huisie did just now was to buy time for the king to find the true master of this planet. He had already gotten a rough understanding of the strength of Yi Zichen's vanguard. Honestly, he was a bit scared. These damned lowly commoners. Shut up. Huisie suddenly roared, then grabbed the king by the neck. If you don't want to die, then keep urging me. Do you understand? I got it. The king was so scared that he shrunk his neck. He held the communicator in his hand and repeatedly urged his father to come back. At the same time, Yi Zichen, who was on a spaceship, had already arrived outside the Empire. The tall city walls were so tall that one couldn't see the end of it. Yi Zichen looked up silently at the gigantic structure in front of him. Everyone, attack the city. Chapter 2461. Attack. 2 million Vanguard soldiers charged out in full force. Once they did, they would launch an all-out assault. Yi Zichen didn't want to waste even a second with Huisie. He had to conquer the Empire as quickly as possible. The Vanguard soldiers brandished their weapons and charged towards the city gates. In the blink of an eye, an hour passed. Your Excellency, Seuss walked up to Yi Zichen, his expression dark and unsightly. We can't break through, can we? During this time, Yi Zichen kept an eye on the situation. Huisie was determined to defend the city and not leave. The city's walls were harder to break through than they'd imagined. The city guards stood atop the walls, refusing to come out to fight. Just like that, they held their ground. In the end, this wasn't a solution. Yi Zichen could tell that Huisie was waiting for something. But even now, Yi Zichen still hadn't figured out what he was waiting for. Reinforcements? He'd already purged the outer cities. The only one still stubbornly resisting was the capital city of the Empire. If they wanted to fight a war of attrition, Yi Zichen couldn't tell that they wanted to fight a war of attrition. That's right. Seuss frowned and let out a long sigh. They won't leave the city at all, and our people can't get in either. I've already ordered them to surround the entire city. But that won't be much of an improvement. What do you want to do? I want to personally lead 1,000,000 soldiers on a spaceship and fly over the city walls. We'll fight them inside. Seuss gazed at the towering city walls. The way he saw it, this was the best solution. If he let his soldiers attack the city on their own, the city guards would be prepared, and they'd inevitably suffer casualties. What they wanted in this battle was a complete victory. Every soldier's life was a precious asset to the Upheaval Alliance. As a commander, Seuss absolutely wouldn't let his soldiers make meaningless sacrifices. They rode on a stealthy spaceship. The guards on the city walls did not know about the existence of the spaceship, and they did not have any means of detection. Such a sudden attack was the best way to ensure that the people inside the city would not be harmed, and it could also catch the guards inside the city unprepared. All right, after a brief moment of hesitation, Yizichin nodded at Seuss's request. I'll arrange it right away. Wait. Yizichin let out a deep breath. I'll go with you. City Lord. Seuss couldn't help but ask with widened eyes. Just leave this to us. You can just wait for our triumphant return. Why do you still want to go to such a dangerous place? There's an old saying where we come from, lead by example. Yizichin smiled at Xios, then stood up from the rock and stretched lazily. As the city lord, I should be at the forefront. Moreover, I must personally deal with Huoxie. The grudge between Yizichin and Huoxie had been there for far too long. It was time to settle this grudge. Then this subordinate will send 50,000 people to follow you. Hugh spoke. No need. Yizichin laughed. None of you are as strong as I am. You sent 50,000 people to follow me, not to protect me, but to increase my burden. Do what you have to do. Remember, if possible, try not to kill those whose hearts have been devoured by the flame imprint. Of course, if our people are in danger, don't be soft-hearted. Yizichin didn't want to kill them. That was because Yizichin knew that they were Huoxie's puppets. They might not want war to happen in the first place. They were pitiful people. However, if Yizichin had to choose between their lives and his subordinates' lives, then there was no reason for him to not care about his subordinates. This subordinate understands. Seuss nodded heavily. I will do my best to deal with Huoxie and reduce your pressure. Yes, City Lord. Hearing that, Seuss immediately went to make arrangements. Gradually, people started to retreat from the surroundings of the capital in an orderly manner. Sire, at the capital of the empire, an old man with the appearance of a treacherous official scrambled into the kingdom's bedchamber. The king of the empire was still urging his father to act. Huoxie sat in the room without saying anything. Your Majesty, great news, the old man shouted. The people attacking the city outside have retreated. Our people have been holding the fort. They can't attack from the outside, so they seem to have retreated. Really? The king was overjoyed. He looked towards Huoxie, who was resting on the throne with his eyes closed. Grand Imperial Advisor, look, they've all retreated. Do I still need to urge my father? This planet is a fief that my father gave me. I didn't manage it well, so I kept urging my father to come. This also affected my image in my father's heart. The king's voice suddenly became softer and softer. In the end, there was no sound at all, because he saw Huoxie's gaze, which was emotionlessly glancing at him. Did you not hear me clearly? I told you to get your father here, but those traitors have already retreated from our city. The king frowned. The king frowned. If the empire is not in danger and my father is here, he will definitely punish us. Are you going against my arrangements? Huoxie asked. Of course not, Grand Imperial Advisor, the king sighed. It's just that I think. I don't need you to think. I want me to think. Huoxie squinted his eyes at the old man in front of him. You said they retreated? Why, yes. Oh. All of a sudden, a ball of fire ignited in Huoxie's hand, which he chucked onto the old man. The old man screamed miserably as he was burned by the flames. The king trembled as he stood nearby and watched his loyal servant get burned alive by Huoxie's flames. All right. No one said that they retreated now. Your Majesty, please treat it as if they didn't retreat. Huoxie looked at the king with a smile. The king subconsciously gulped. Yes, Grand Imperial Advisor. What Huoxie didn't know was that Yizichin definitely wouldn't retreat so easily. The grudge between the two of them would definitely not end until one of them was dead. Retreat. I don't know what they're up to. If I don't go find the old king now, then what are they going to use to defend when Yi Zichen attacks? At that moment, Huixia placed all of his assets on the old king. He's back. It's naturally a happy ending. If he doesn't come back, no, he will definitely come back. At that very moment, before Huixia could close his eyes, not good. The enemy has entered the city. Chapter 2462. Huixia, who was sitting on the throne, frowned. They were attacking. The crowned king was scared out of his wits. He stared at the guard in front of him. What did you just say? Didn't they retreat when they attacked? The king's tone was starting to sound hysterical. The guard kneeling on the ground shook his head. I don't know either. Someone opened the city gate. Huixia frowned and asked, didn't I tell you to defend the city and not open the city gates? No one is opening the gate. The guard's face was also filled with confusion. We don't know what's going on either. Suddenly, a lot of enemies appeared in the city. At this time, our southern and western parts of the city have already been occupied. Boom! Just then, a loud explosion sounded from outside the palace. Hearing this voice, the king fell to the ground and crawled under the bed without a care for his status. The enemy is here. The enemy has charged in. Father, please save me. State Preceptor, what should we do? The eyes of the guards in the bedchamber were also filled with solemnity. Previously, there was the defense of the city walls, but now the enemy had used some kind of demonic technique to break into the city. The entire royal city was in a state of panic. The personal guards had already come into contact with the enemy, but from the looks of the situation, they did not have any advantage at all. If nothing unexpected happened, the entire royal city would be occupied by the enemy in less than an hour. At that time, they would have no chance at all. State Preceptor, take the king and kill your way out from the west gate. We will also protect your safety with our lives. The guard said solemnly. We can't get out. Huixia smiled when he heard this. Since Yi Zichen had already slaughtered his way into the city, how could he possibly let him leave? He must have kept a close eye on everyone in this city. It was impossible to leave this city. How long can the personal guards outside last? Huixia asked with a frown. About an hour. Why is it so short? As soon as Yi Zichen set out, he left. He then began to organize the forces on his side. Right now, there are over 1 million personal guards in the city, all of them at the pinnacle of the star system and universe level. Inside King City, there is still a large number of guards. The guards were all nebula grade and above. They could also control fire elemental energy. In terms of battle strength, he could completely compare to a universe level 4 and above expert, even though Yi Zichen's side had the advantage in numbers. How could they control the entire royal city in such a short period of time? It had to be known that it took them half a month to conquer those unguarded towns. The defenses were so strict. King City, which had millions of guards, actually took less than 2 hours to completely fall. This was simply a fantasy story. In Huixia's opinion, relying on the defense of the city walls, they could at least resist for half a month. Even if they entered the city now, they should at least last for more than 4 hours. That's several million guards. Even if they were several million steam buns, it would take Yi Zichen and company several hours to eat. Are you afraid to fight? Huixia grabbed the guard's shoulder and scolded. Unbeknownst to them, Huixia was also panicking at this moment. Everyone in King City was his slave, so he should know best whether they were afraid of battle or not. But if he wasn't afraid to fight, he really didn't know how to explain the situation before him. An hour? Yi Zichen's men would be able to charge into the palace in an hour at most. Grandmaster, it's not that we're afraid to fight. The guard clenched his teeth and explained. The enemy's overall strength isn't bad either. They are on par with the personal guards. However, their equipment is simply too good. All of them are wearing Cosmic System level purple tier equipment, which all have very high fire resistance. They aren't afraid of our fire at all, and just charge forward despite the fire. Their overwhelming advantage in equipment makes our men unable to fight back at all. Also, they have a weapon that can instantly kill any experts below the 3rd level of the Cosmic System level and heavily injure anyone below the 9th level. Only the universe level can withstand it, but even they can't last more than a few hits. Huissia's heart instantly sank. Then he looked down at the king, whose head was completely buried in the bed, and squinted his eyes. Go out. Try to defend against the enemy as much as possible. Buy more time, understand? With that, Huissia's eyes flashed with a red light, while the flame mark on the guard's back shone brightly. Yes, we swear to defend the dignity of the Empire. The guard charged out with bloodshot eyes. Huissia watched him leave, then patted the hidden king. The enemy is here. The enemy is here. The king, who was hiding under the bed, kept muttering. Your Majesty, Grandmaster, the enemy is charging in. Hurry up and find a place to hide. The king's eyes were filled with fear. Your Majesty, come out for a moment, Huissia said calmly. The king slowly crawled out from under the bed, and the fear on his face had already reached an extreme level. Grandmaster, what is it? I just wanted to ask, how long will it take for your Majesty's father to reach you? Huissia smiled. He hasn't replied yet. Then is he already on the way? Huissia asked gently. Father said he would come a long time ago. The fear on the king's face did not decrease, and he couldn't help but tremble as he listened to the sounds of fighting outside. That's good. Huissia suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and nodded with a smile. The king was not as indifferent as he was. Grandmaster, it's still unknown when father will come. I think it's better for us to hide well. Your Majesty is right. Huissia nodded, but there are enemies outside. After they come in, they will also carefully interrogate us. Your Majesty, how do you think we should hide? Do you want to hide here? I don't think this is a good place to hide. Where does Grandmaster have to hide? The king said. Actually, I think... Huissia smiled and put his hand on the king's head. Suddenly, the king's eyes became empty, and his whole body softly fell to the ground. Also at this time, from between Huissia's eyebrows, a ball of fire came out. This ball of fire swayed in the air twice, and then burrowed into between the king's eyebrows. Not long later, the king, who had fallen to the ground, stood up again with a smile in his eyes. As for Huissia's body, it never got up again. I don't know where the king should hide, but I know very well where I should hide. Chapter 2463. State Preceptor. The king in his bedroom scratched his head hard. What are you trying to do? In his mind, he could hear Huissia's whisper. This made the king, who was already terrified, even more fearful. Why do you want to enter my body? Sir King, I'm just hiding here for a while. Huissia's voice sounded in the king's mind. I'm your most trusted state preceptor, right? Of course, you're my most trusted state preceptor. The king nodded. I believe you've seen how much I've sacrificed for your kingdom. Of course. Then this subordinate will hide in your body for a while. Can't you satisfy this subordinate's little request? The moment Huissia's voice fell, the king subconsciously answered, Of course you can. But the king had never encountered such a situation before. There were other people's souls hidden in his body. If that was the case, then who did this body belong to? Was he the king? Or was Huissia the king? The king was weak, but that didn't mean he was a fool. He was very clear that in terms of strength, he was definitely not Huissia's opponent. Now that the two souls were in the same body, if they wanted to fight for control of the body, he definitely wouldn't be able to win against Huissia. What's there to worry about? Huissia laughed. King, just be at ease and be your king. This subordinate has no interest in your body at all. You can be at ease. I just want to hide here and wait for the situation to blow over. This subordinate will naturally come out. Don't you trust me? I trust State Preceptor. The king swallowed his saliva. Then that's good. If you trust me, there's nothing for Sir King to worry about. Yes, I'm not worried at all. On the king's neck that was covered by his long golden hair, a flame imprint slowly flickered with light. The king, who had a grudge, slowly let down his guard. He no longer felt fear for Huissia hiding in his body. State Preceptor, what should I do now? The king sat on the chair and muttered to himself. Huissia laughed and said, The king should still do what you should do. For example, sit on the chair and wait for the enemy to attack. Then rest assured, with this subordinate here, how could I let the king get hurt? All right, I believe in the Grand Preceptor. As soon as he finished speaking, the king, who was about to be scared out of his wits, suddenly acted out of character. He no longer thought about hiding, but instead walked out of the bedchamber and walked straight into his palace. He sat on the throne and looked straight ahead. That's right. That's how a king should be, Huissier said with a smile. Only with the grand state preceptor here can I feel at ease. The king sat in his chair in silence. After that, no one said anything else. Huissier didn't destroy the king's soul, but left it in his body, allowing two souls to exist in one body at the same time. He did this for a reason. As long as the king's soul was not destroyed, it proved that he was still alive. Even though Yi Zichen knew that Huissier was in his body, if Yi Zichen didn't want to kill the innocent, he would have to be careful. Of course, more importantly, it was to deal with the king's father. Huissier arrived at this empire. In the beginning, he wanted to build his own empire. As long as he was given a few more years, this empire would be completely under his control. By then, it wouldn't matter if the king was dead or alive. Even if the king's father came, he wasn't afraid. He just hadn't expected Yi Zichen to arrive so quickly. Yi Zichen's appearance had disrupted all of his plans. In order to survive, he had no choice but to contact his father. But if the old king returned, he'd definitely sense the changes within the empire. Even if he killed Yi Zichen, he'd deal with Huissier all the same. Huissier wanted to live. That way, he'd have to fuse his soul with the old king's son. Only then would he have the right to negotiate terms. The flames of war raged on outside the capital. Hugh's plan for a surprise attack was very effective. After the Upheaval Alliance's vanguard army entered the city, it instantly descended into chaos. Thanks to their superior equipment, the city guards and personal guards couldn't do anything to the Upheaval Alliance's vanguard army. Even the guards who'd gone to report were wrong. Never mind an hour. They couldn't even hold out for 20 minutes. The vanguard army completely overran the city. The gates opened wide, and the vanguard army entered. The entire city was now under the Upheaval Alliance's control. The only place they didn't go was the royal palace of this royal city. I'll leave the city to you. I'll go to the palace myself. Yi Zichen glanced at the majestic palace not too far away. Yes, sir. City Lord. Hugh nodded solemnly. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes and slowly walked into the palace. As he made his way to the palace, there were still many guards and personal guards stubbornly resisting. When they saw Yi Zichen appear, they all hefted their weapons and charged him. But Yi Zichen waved them off into the distance. Whoosh! Scorching flames bore down on him. Yi Zichen smiled, reached out, and grabbed the flames. Instantly, his body was engulfed in raging flames. You want to play with fire with me? You're far too weak. If only Huissier had come. The flames instantly swallowed up the surrounding guards. Yi Zichen grabbed one of them by the head. Speak. Where's Huissier? I swear to defend the glory of the empire. The guard gnashed his teeth and roared. Suddenly, his body began to expand. The guards and personal guards around him did the same. Self-detonation. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes, his expression filled with disdain. He waved his right hand. Those who were about to self-detonate all felt their consciousnesses being sealed. Isn't it good to be alive? Why do you have to work so hard just to be a puppet? Your families are all waiting for you to come home. With that, Yi Zichen pushed away the guards in front of the palace and walked towards the palace. Huissier, come out. I've already taken over the capital. You have nowhere to hide. Yi Zichen said softly towards the palace. Although he spoke very softly, everyone in the kingdom could hear him clearly. The calmness in the eyes of the emperor, who sat on the throne, turned into panic. State Preceptor, what should I do? Your Majesty, during this period of time, this subordinate suggests that you urge the old king. You will only be truly safe when he returns. Of course, don't worry, this subordinate will definitely do his best to protect your safety. Huissier reminded. The king nodded, then held a communication device in his hand. I believe in the state preceptor. However, at that very moment, before the king could send the message through the communication device, the gate to the palace was kicked open. Yi Zichen slowly walked in with his hands in his pockets. Found you. Chapter 2464. In the Solemn Palace. The golden-haired king sat up straight on his high throne, while his pupils twitched as he looked at Yizichen, who had just destroyed the palace gates. Dude, just who are you? Why are you organizing rebels to rebel against this king's rule? Do you know that you have committed a heinous crime? Little kid, Yizichen, who stood below, frowned as he looked up at the king. Huixia, you really are something. You want to harm such a small child? The king in front of him looked like he was 12 or 13 years old. His face was filled with immaturity, and the crown on his head didn't seem to be particularly harmonious. Golden curls. It made him look like a noble of the kingdom. It was a pity. In the end, he was still too young. He did not have the domineering aura that a king should have. This king is not Huixia, the teenager shouted. I know you're not. Why are you yelling at me? Yizichen tilted his head and looked at the young man. I'm talking to the guy in your body. Huixia, do you really think that I won't be able to find you if you hide in his body? Suddenly, the young king let out a cold laugh. Brat, I acknowledge you. Your growth has truly exceeded my expectations. Do I need to thank you for your approval? A cold light flashed in Yizichen's eyes. Hurry up and come out of this child's body to die. I can give you a quick death. Don't even think of harming the state preceptor. The young king suddenly shouted. Looking at the youth's expression, his words were very serious. Yizichen glanced at him and had a rough idea of what was going on. Most likely, this king had also become Huixia's slave. Did you hear that? It's not that I don't want to come out, but our king doesn't want me to come out. Fire laughed wantonly. He is willing to use his own body to protect me. How can I refuse the king's grace? As he spoke, Huixia controlled the king to stand up. If you want to kill me, you'll have to ask our king first. Look at you. You think you've got me? Yizichen smiled. Now that my soul has fused with the king's soul, if you want to destroy my soul, the king's soul will also be destroyed. Huixia laughed. You think I wouldn't do it? Hey, you can try. Huixia said disdainfully. Don't blame me for not reminding you. The king's father is heading to this life star. He will arrive soon. If you want to take action, you should hurry. Of course, if that lord sees you kill his son, I believe that you will not have a good ending. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Huixia's loud laughter came to an abrupt halt. Yizichen didn't hesitate at all. He stomped on the ground and charged towards Huixia like an unsheathed sword. Reckless fool. With that, Huixia, who was hiding in the king's body, also gained control of his body. He raised his palm, and all the fire elemental particles in the palace gathered around his body. With just this bit of control, you still want to control the fire element? Suddenly, a disdainful whisper came from the palace. Shortly after, the fire elemental sprite stood in the middle of the palace and gently hooked its finger. The fire elements that had gathered around Huixia were all thrown into the fire elemental sprite's embrace. It's you. Huixia looked at the young man below in shock. He never would have thought that the fire elemental sprite, who was not even a teenager, had already grown into a youth in just a few short years. The fire elemental sprite's control over the fire element was several times better than his. Wanting to control fire in front of Yizichen? With the fire elemental sprite's help, Huixia didn't even need to think about it. Yizichen waved his hand and dispersed the fire elemental particles around him. Huixia clenched his right fist and punched towards Yizichen. Dong! The two fists collided. Intense energy fluctuations were released from the center of their fists, and the entire palace was turned into a mess under the impact of this kind of energy. Peak of the universe. Huixia's pupils contracted. He had already sensed Yizichen's strength from the clash just now. Same to you. Yizichen smiled and shrugged. I didn't think that Huixia hadn't been slacking off and had reached the peak of the universe as well. We're both at the peak. I'm not afraid of you. Huixia's fists turned into afterimages. Yizichen squinted his eyes and nimbly dodged all of the attacks, then grabbed Huixia's fists. Are you sure? The moment Yizichen clenched his fists, he activated the runestone system. Power surged into his arm, causing him to slam Huixia's arm onto the ground. Huixia, who was still in a daze from the slam, was still in a daze. This is fire. Do you understand, idiot? The fire elemental sprite pressed its finger down, causing a ball of fire over 100 meters wide to descend from the sky. The ball of fire was completely white. Yi Zichen could feel the heat of the fire, even from several tens of thousands of meters away. As the ball of fire descended, the entire palace began to emit black smoke. By the time the ball of fire completely landed, all of the metal in the palace had melted into liquid. Boom! The huge ball of fire instantly engulfed the entire palace. Yi Zichen and the fire elemental sprite stood in the air and looked down at the blazing flames, as well as the charred surroundings. When did you get so good at controlling fire? Yi Zichen tilted his head and asked. The fire elemental sprite smiled. It's all right. If there were no accidents, the fire elemental sprite's fireball could completely burn Xie to death. Even though he was once a fire elemental commander, this sort of high-level fire elemental wasn't something he could handle. Of course, the young king was going to die with him. Yi Zichen couldn't let his guard down until it was all over. Yi Zichen had been paying attention to his surroundings the entire time to see if Xie had taken the opportunity to sneak out. However, to his surprise, a burly man walked out of the flames. There was a full beard on his face, and he was carrying the unconscious young king in his arms. Yi Zichen could sense that Xie was still alive and was still hiding in the young king's body. Emperor Star Expert. The fire elemental sprite frowned as he spoke. He felt a heavy sense of oppression from the middle-aged man in front of him. Of course, you can even withstand fire. You're definitely an expert. You might even be a commander or a titled expert. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled. The middle-aged man silently placed the young king on the ground, then looked up at Yi Zichen and the fire elemental sprite. You're a deity? The middle-aged man muttered, then took out his sword. If you can withstand one of my attacks, then I'll let you go. Of course, your subordinates will have to die. In the future, don't come to my life planet ever again. Chapter 2465. The middle-aged man looked to be in his early 40s. She exuded grace and nobility from head to toe. The moment he looked up, it was as if the entire world was trembling. They couldn't bear the middle-aged man's high head and the gaze that seemed to pierce through the Milky Way. Commander level. Up in the sky, Yi Zichen saw through the newcomer's strength. For some unknown reason, the look in Yi Zichen's eyes changed for some reason when he reached the level of a middle-aged man. He seemed to be secretly delighted, but also seemed to be sighing. What he was happy about was that, in the second universe, the strength of the experts seemed to be much weaker than that of the first universe. To be able to own a life star. From his face and words, Shi Yin could feel that he didn't only have one life star. Such a life star lord. His strength was only at the commander level. Don't think that in the first universe, a Star Lord's strength was only slightly above a universe level. However, they shouldn't forget that they didn't own this life star. They were just the people who owned this life star. They were sent here to manage the planet. Just like that young king. They weren't the true owners of this life star. Taking the Blue River Star as an example, the one who truly used that life star was the master of the Banao galaxy, or perhaps even higher. With such a comparison, the second universe was too weak. The instant Yi Zichen saw him, Yi Zichen believed that, given his current strength, he, too, could possess a life star. Or even more, that was what he was secretly pleased about. As for his sigh, he sighed because this person was a commander-in-chief. This didn't make him feel excited at all. In fact, he wasn't even interested. Imperial Star. The fire elemental sprite frowned. Yi Zichen shook his head, then slowly descended from the sky to stand less than 10 meters away from the middle-aged man. Behind him, the fire elemental sprite hurriedly landed as well. It was extremely tense, and all the cells in its body seemed to be tensed up. He glared at the middle-aged man. His eyes flashed with seriousness. Are you the master of this life star? As soon as he landed, Yi Zichen's gaze was filled with pity. What? The middle-aged man placed his hand on his waist. He took out a golden long sword from his belt. The long sword hummed. Yi Zichen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw the sword. Good sword. You don't have to tell me that. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with coldness. I want it. Yi Zichen pursed his lips with a smile. The middle-aged man's eyes darkened, and a strong pressure was released from his body. Uncle Luka, kill him. Kill him for me. Not far away. The young king had already regained his spirit. With the appearance of this middle-aged man, the flames just now did not cause any harm to him. When the middle-aged man heard this, he turned around and a look of disgust appeared in his eyes. Looks like you can feel it. Yi Zichen smiled. I thought you wouldn't be able to sense it because you weren't strong enough. Your gaze just now made me rather happy. As you can see, there is someone in this king's soul that I must deal with, and that is why I came here. So what? The middle-aged man frowned. He's my nephew. As for the soul within his body, I will deal with it. However, I will not let you touch a single hair on his body. Where did you get your confidence from? Yi Zichen tilted his head. If I'm not confident in front of you, wouldn't that be laughable? The middle-aged man could tell at a glance that Yi Zichen was merely a peak expert in the universe. He marveled at how a deity could gain such power in such a short amount of time. His strength was indeed not bad on this life planet. Unfortunately, that was all there was to it. He didn't need to worry about Yi Zichen at all. Yi Zichen's strength was the source of his confidence. I know, you invaders with the title of deity can leave at any time. But when I arrived, I looked around, and your subordinates. They all seem to be natives of this planet. I'm amazed that our life planet gave birth to someone like you while my brother and I were gone. You even united the natives and formed a force that cannot be underestimated. But if you think you can take over our life planet just because of that, then you're gravely mistaken. If I wanted, I can make your millions of people, disappear from this world in the blink of an eye. The middle-aged man's tone was filled with confidence. When he heard that, Yi Zichen's lips curled into a smile. At that moment, as if sensing that the leaders of both sides had already met, the Imperial Guards and personal guards rushed over. Xios led Yi Zichen's subordinates into the palace. Xios led Yi Zichen's subordinates into the palace as well. Second Star Lord, Your Excellency. Both sides' voices shook the heavens. Dezhou walked in front of Yi Zichen with a shovel in hand. Han Qing also looked solemnly at the middle-aged man. You're not this planet's Lord of the Stars. Yi Zichen wasn't affected in the slightest. He frowned at the middle-aged man. I want to know just how strong your Lord of the Stars is. You don't deserve to know, the middle-aged man interrupted coldly. The golden longsword in his hand trembled even more violently. All you need to do is remember this strike of mine. Catch it, and you can live. Of course, you can also leave right now. In any case, the people behind you are going to die. They're your people. Are you willing to let them die? Said Yi Zichen. I don't need people who want to rebel against us. The middle-aged man was already charging up his power. He was going to use this strike to pulverize Yi Zichen and the 2 million Vanguard soldiers behind him. He wasn't boasting. As a commander-level expert, he had this kind of power. If he wanted to, he could do it. The Vanguard soldiers looked forward, but there was no hint of fear in their eyes. They believed in the city lord. Do you see that? My subordinates and your subordinates. Yi Zichen looked at the middle-aged man mockingly. Even if you're charging up your power, my subordinates are still as sharp as swords. I haven't even attacked your subordinates yet, but they're already scared out of their wits. But they can live, but your subordinates must die. As a commander-level expert, how could he be swayed by a few words? Yi Zichen nodded, then squinted his eyes and smiled. How about this? It's too easy for me to block your strike. There's no challenge at all. How about you block my strike? If you can, I'll kill myself. Ha ha ha, you think you're worthy? The middle-aged man laughed wantonly. Yi Zichen's expression remained unchanged as he shrugged. Let me ask the heavens for a strike. Chapter 2466. As soon as he said that, countless gazes turned to Yi Zichen. He'd become the focus of everyone's attention. They watched as he raised his right hand into the sky. For a full half a minute, there was no movement at all. The vanguard of the Upheaval Alliance continued to stare up at the sky, while the Imperial Guards and personal guards smiled mockingly. Ask the heavens for a sword. I think he's been scared silly by the Second Star Lord. Yet he's still asking the heavens for a sword? It's so funny. He's stubbornly holding on to his face. Maybe he wants to die a little more gracefully. Don't talk nonsense. Divinities can leave this place. He probably wants to put on an act with his subordinates, so they can die a natural death. Mocking laughter filled the air. In the face of such mockery, Yi Zichen's eyes maintained a warm smile. His hand remained raised in midair, his fingers splayed. The vanguard didn't waver in the slightest. What on earth is Boss trying to do? Dizhou couldn't resist his curiosity. He'd secretly used 20 million star coins to divine what would happen next. Very quickly, he furrowed his brows and stared at his empty hand. I refused to believe it. This time, he tossed out 100 million. F***CK. What on earth is going on? He tossed out 100 million star coins. Forget divining the future. He couldn't even see a single image. That was to say, to divine the future, he'd need countless times more than 100 million star coins. He looked at the money in his pocket. Yi Zichen had left him quite a bit of money, but he really didn't want to spend it like this. Should I try one last time? After a moment's hesitation, Dizhou decided. 10 million galactic dollars. That was equivalent to 100 billion galactic dollars. Dizhou refused to believe he couldn't see such an enormous sum. Screw you. Still no reaction. Now, he even suspected that there might be some problem with his function. 100 billion. How many chicken legs would that cost? Wouldn't it taste good? How much longer are you going to keep up this farce? At that moment, the second Star Lord shook his head. My time is precious. I don't have time to play around. Either get the hell out of my sight right now, or die. What's the rush? Yi Zichen tilted his head and revealed a warm smile. You're the first person I've seen who's so eager to die. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes, then pursed his lips. Sword to the heavens. It has to communicate with the heavens. Otherwise, why would he lend you the sword? Then how much longer do you want to communicate? He's here. Suddenly, Yi Zichen clenched his fists. The moment his voice faded, the entire life star began to shake violently. Countless people looked into the void. Then they saw something above their heads, or rather, above Yi Zichen's palm. Wisps of golden light converged towards a single point. Gradually, the golden light condensed into a dazzling golden sword. The body of the sword seemed to carry the power of 1,000 caddies. The moment it condensed, the entire palace collapsed. Thick dust engulfed everyone. Everyone could barely see what was happening in front of them, but they could still see the dazzling glow of the golden sword. His expression changed drastically. Just a second ago, all of the Imperial Guards and personal guards wore mocking expressions. Now, they were overwhelmed with terror. Even the second Star Lord. His expression was grave as he watched the golden sword descend upon them. I absolutely can't let this sword fall into his hands. This sentence lingered in the mind of the second Star Lord. He stomped on the ground and leaped into the void. He grabbed the hilt of the golden sword. This sword is mine. The middle-aged man laughed without restraint. Unfortunately, less than half a second after he grabbed the golden sword, a powerful force slammed into his chest and forced him back several hundred meters. Look, you're too greedy. I already told you, I asked the heavens for this sword. It's a weapon bestowed upon me by heaven and earth. How could you possibly steal it from me? If you want it, you could try asking for it yourself. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes. The second Star Lord furrowed his brows. The force of the impact, just now. He felt his blood churn in his chest. If Yi Zichen really had gotten his hands on it, even he might have found it difficult to resist. This sword, it was simply too strong. What kind of demonic arts did you use? The second Star Lord roared. Demonic arts? Yi Zichen grinned. You're quite interesting. I asked for a sword from the heavens. How could you call it demonic arts? Which of your weapons isn't a gift from heaven and earth? It's just that the tone of the gift is a bit nicer. Do you know what that means? Heaven and earth are proving to you that I am the true child of destiny of this planet. This planet should have belonged to me. What I need to do now is to take back what was rightfully mine. The child of destiny, the future Lord. Instantly, the vanguard of the Upheaval Alliance knelt to the ground, their voices filling the air. Their deafening roars shook the Imperial army, and they couldn't help but retreat. Yi Zichen grinned at the second Star Lord. Sorry, but the true master of this planet has arrived. Die. At that moment, the second Star Lord hefted his weapon and swung it at Yi Zichen. There was no way he was going to believe this nonsense. This planet belonged to him and his older brother. How could it possibly have some bullshit child of destiny? Even if he was. So long as he killed Yi Zichen, they'd still be in charge. Rumble. The surging sword energy seemed to cut through the void. Behind the sword energy, the second Star Lord gripped his long sword and attacked. Your Excellency, Han Qing and the others couldn't help but shout. Yi Zichen maintained his smile. As soon as the sword energy reached him, the slowly descending golden sword landed in his hands. Yi Zichen waved it lightly. The sword energy was cleaved in two. At the same time, Yi Zichen's golden sword blocked the second Star Lord's advance. What are you doing? You said one strike. Why did you break your own rules? With that, Yi Zichen's golden sword flipped through the air. I'm different from you. I've always been a man of my word. If I said one strike, I absolutely won't do a second time. Instantly, dazzling golden light burst forth from the golden sword. Yi Zichen swung it. It seemed to carry with it a myriad of galaxies. Wherever the sword energy passed, not even a blade of grass grew. Guards, personal guards, and even the second Star Lord. The sword energy devoured them all. From today onwards, this planet is mine. Chapter 2467. The sword light descended. Yi Zichen looked back, but didn't spare her a second glance. He twisted his neck. As countless people watched, the second Star Lord was swallowed up by the sword light. The Imperial Guards and personal guards. They all seemed to have gone mad. They wanted to run, but they didn't know where to go. In the end, they could only cover their ears and squat on the ground, not daring to move. Let's go. Yi Zichen smiled at the onlookers. There was no need to watch the second Star Lord's fate any longer. The moment he'd swung his sword, the result had already been decided. He had to die. This was Yi Zichen's confidence in his own strength. It was also his confidence in his sword godhead, the peak of the universe. With enough talisman stones, his overall strength had long since surpassed that of a cosmic-level cultivator by tens of thousands of times. Back in the city, he'd used up all the talisman stones he'd accumulated over the past 2.5 years. He'd improved his talisman stones. He'd gained control over his godhead. This was the source of Yi Zichen's confidence. The way he saw it, no one below the title level could match him. He could deal with them. One strike. That was enough. What the hell? Dijo was dumbfounded. No wonder he couldn't divine it. How could he divine such a dangerous strike? Divine at least a few billion galactic dollars? Or even more? Han Qing's eyes were filled with emotion. He'd been one of the first to follow Yi Zichen. It could be said that he'd personally watched Yi Zichen get to where he was now. Back then, when they'd first met, Yi Zichen was still at the domain level. Even Han Qing was only at the cosmic system level. Even so, given his strength, he could be considered one of the best in the surrounding villages. Now, the Upheaval Alliance was growing stronger and stronger. He'd gone from the star level to the universe level, while Yi Zichen had surpassed him. He was now strong enough to slay a commander-level expert with a single strike. He'd chosen to follow this person. It really was a wise decision. City Lord, Child of Destiny. Countless Vanguard soldiers looked up and cheered. Yi Zichen's strike just now had an enormous impact on them. There was no one more loyal than their lord. Strength was something that made them even happier. That sword, perhaps anyone who saw, would never be able to forget it for the rest of their lives. Even in their twilight years, they might still tell their juniors how earth-shattering their Alliance Master's sword had been in the past. Just as Yi Zichen turned around to leave, the Vanguard troops outside also opened up a path, their eyes filled with respect and reverence as they looked at the Alliance Master before them. The fire elemental sprite could not help but raise its eyebrows. Even he hadn't expected the Emperor Star to reach such a state. During this period of time, he had been hunting vicious beasts in order to obtain the power of the universe. Over the past 2 years, not only had the 5 elements elemental fairy's strength greatly increased, but the godhood within Emperor Star's body had not fallen behind either. In fact, it was even showing signs of surpassing them. The fire elemental sprite recalled the flames he had released. Even though that ball of fire wasn't his full strength, it was still relatively serious. The middle-aged man was not injured at all, but now he was annihilated by a single sword strike that had condensed godhood. The fire elemental sprite admitted that its power was no match for a divine spark. It seemed it couldn't afford to slack off. It had to work even harder to increase its strength. Otherwise, the five elements elemental fairies would fall far behind. Sooner or later, they'd be left far behind by the Emperor's Star. They'd become dispensable accessories. Right, Emperor's Star. Suddenly, the fire elemental sprite, who'd only taken a few steps, spoke up. Yi Zichen turned around and glanced at him. His eyes were smiling. How could I forget about him? As he spoke, Yi Zichen's right hand reached into the air behind him. The young king was just about to take advantage of the chaos to escape. He felt as if someone had grabbed him by the chest. His entire body flew backward uncontrollably until Yi Zichen grabbed him by the neck. Let go of me. The young king struggled with all his might. Quite a few of the imperial guards and personal guards gripped their weapons with bloodshot eyes. Let go of the king. Huh? Xiu's laughed coldly. Instantly, the vanguard experts glared coldly at the imperial army. If you don't want to die, don't get in our alliance master's way. Our alliance master is merciful and doesn't want to kill you. You'd best be tactful. How about vanguard? In an instant, the vanguard experts gripped their weapons and aimed their laser guns at the imperial soldiers' heads. Yi Zichen didn't care at all. He grabbed the young king by the neck. What? Huixia, are you not going to come out? Let go of me. The young king struggled with all his might, but his expression quickly changed to one of pleading. I beg you, let me go. This is all the Grand Imperial Advisor's plan. It's all because of him. The one you want to kill is him. Just kill him. I can promise you that after I leave, I definitely won't seek revenge on you. Or you can imprison me on this life star. This place will forever belong to you, as long as I can live. The young king's words were filled with humble pleading. When he saw his second uncle die, he no longer had the courage to resist Yi Zichen. I really don't want to kill you, but unfortunately, your soul is fused with Huixia's. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh. Let Huixia come out. He's not coming out, the young king said anxiously. Then what else do you think I can do? Yi Zichen clapped his hand towards the young king's head, causing the two souls to leave the young king's body. The clear soul was fused with fire. This fire was Huixia. The only thing that surprised Yi Zichen was that the king's soul was so pure. A human's soul could not be deceived. Such a pure and clear soul. The young king really isn't a bad person. He was just bewitched by Huixia. Let me go, let me go. The young king in his soul state shouted with all his might. Yi Zichen's hand actually hesitated a bit when he saw the pure soul. Brat, can you kill me? If you kill me, then this little king will die with me. Ha ha, he's an innocent person. Can you bear the sin of killing the innocent? Ha ha, brat, you can't do it. Huixia laughed wantonly. At that moment, a hint of a smile appeared in Yi Zichen's eyes, while lightning flashed in his palm. Huixia was stunned when he saw that. Then, he shouted like a madman. You can't kill me, you can't kill me. If you kill me, this king will die as well. You don't even. Do you really think that the sins I bear are few? Yi Zichen looked at Huixia and the young king with a cold gaze. For my clansmen, for the future I want to protect, these sins are nothing to me. With that, Yi Zichen patted the young king's head. I'm sorry if you want to hate. Come and hate me. Chapter 2468. Lightning and palm. Like silver snakes, they bit into the souls in Yi Zichen's palm. In truth, Yi Zichen could destroy the souls in an instant. But he didn't want to. The way he saw it, if he killed Huixia so easily, it would be too easy for him. Purge. Death of millions of human martyrs. How could he face those who were killed by him if he died a quick and painless death? Perhaps the king was innocent. Yi Zichen said he was willing to bear this sin. Oh! The young king screamed in agony. Huixia, who'd fused with the young king's soul, roared in pain as well. You can't kill me. How can you kill me? You killed the innocent. Aren't you afraid of the heaven's wrath? Why should I be afraid? Huixia looked at the souls in Yi Zichen's palm. The moment the lightning started tearing into their souls, he tried to break free. Unfortunately, he was already fish on a chopping block. He'd made the worst possible decision. If he'd stayed in his own body, he might have been able to rely on his position as the commander of the fire elemental spirits to help him fight for a bit longer. That way, he'd be able to hold on a bit longer. The moment he decided to enter the young king's soul, there was no way out. In terms of control over the fire element, the young king's body couldn't withstand Huixia's full power at all. Furthermore, after the king's soul fused with Huixia, it was a burden to Huixia. He'd placed all his bets on the two-star lord. Unfortunately, the two-star lord was no match for Yi Zichen. He couldn't even cause him any trouble. When he died, not even ashes were left behind. From that moment onwards, he'd already lost. "Brat, I won't let you go. I absolutely won't let you go." Huixia howled in agony. His face was twisted beyond recognition. "I'm telling you, I'm the commander of the fire elemental spirits. So long as the elements don't die, I'm immortal. Wait for me. I'll definitely come back for you." Boom! Suddenly, as if he'd given up all hope, Huixia gathered all the fire elemental energy in the world and detonated it in Yi Zichen's palm. The instant Yi Zichen self-detonated, his fire elemental sprites appeared around him, covering him in a fiery robe and gathering large amounts of fire elemental essence around his palms. So, it is, no matter what, the fire elemental commander Huixia was at the pinnacle of strength in the universe. One could only imagine the power of his soul self-destruction. In less than half a breath's time, the fire elemental fairy absorbed all of the fire elements in the surroundings, greatly limiting the range of the explosion. Everyone hurried towards Yi Zichen. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Drops of golden-red blood dripped from Yi Zichen's palm. One hand. It was completely destroyed by Huixia's self-explosion. Imperial Star, City Lord, Big Brother. Countless people widened their eyes, and their eyes were filled with terror. Military Doctor. Shows looked up and shouted. Not long later, countless medical personnel rushed over to treat Yi Zichen's palm. From start to finish, Yi Zichen remained expressionless. He looked up at the sky above him. At this moment, he suddenly laughed. "Emperor Star, Lil Fire, we finally have a life star as our foundation. Don't you think so?" Yi Zichen grinned. For some reason, the corners of his eyes started to moisten as well. These few years, in order to obtain the power to protect the Milky Way, he racked his brains. He thought of everything. The more he knew, the more insignificant he felt. He couldn't find anyone he could rely on, so he ran for his life. Now, he finally had a life star that belonged to him. This life star, it gave him confidence and confidence. It was the firmest conviction to protect the Milky Way. With this life star, he could fight for even more. Yeah, the fire elemental fairy let out a deep sigh when it sensed Yi Zichen's emotions, then looked up at the sky. "We finally have something to stand on. We have the right to plunder the universe." As the fire elemental fairy sighed, Yi Zichen thought back to his past, back when he was still with the Milky Way Master. To be honest, it really hadn't been as difficult as it had been for Yi Zichen. Back then, the Milky Way Master had been the young master of the star system. In terms of experience and background, he'd far surpassed Yi Zichen's. The Milky Way Master had led his family to greater heights. Yi Zichen had started from scratch. Although he'd gotten some help from the outside world, he still couldn't deny how hard he'd worked. Yi Zichen's efforts couldn't be denied. Not everyone would be able to succeed after obtaining these things. After Huixia's death, the flame imprints on the guards and personal guards of the Empire also disappeared. The moment the flames disappeared, the expressions on the faces of many people changed dramatically. At that moment, Yi Zichen looked at the guards and guards. "You might not have noticed, but you've been under the control of that so-called Grand Preceptor this entire time. Now that Huixia is dead, the slave imprints on you have disappeared as well. You can go back now. Your family and friends are all waiting for you. You're letting us go?" The Imperial Guard's eyes were filled with disbelief. Not long ago, they'd been enemies of the Upheaval Alliance, and they'd even fought them. My boss made a deal with your families long ago. He came back to save you, not to kill you. Otherwise, do you really think you'd still be alive? Dijo sneered. Yizichin looked at them silently and laughed. Perfect timing. Let me tell you this. From now on, the Upheaval Alliance will rule this planet. The former Empire of Fire is over. You can choose to serve the Upheaval Alliance, or you can give up your armor and return to normal life. The Upheaval Alliance won't force you. My lord, the guards and personal guard were stunned. Then they suddenly thought of the golden sword from before. The child of destiny. The person in front of them was their true master of the stars. We are willing to serve the child of destiny. You should be our true master of the stars. Instantly, everyone, from the Imperial Guards to the vanguard of the Upheaval Alliance, including Han Qing, the Fire Elemental Fairy, and Dijo, knelt on one knee. Greetings, Master of the Stars. Chapter 2469. Life Star Control. In less than 3 days, the Upheaval Alliance took over the entire planet. From now on, the entire planet truly belonged to the Upheaval Alliance, which meant it belonged to Yizichin. Star-Lord, what do you think about issuing the regulations of our planet in this manner? The moment the Empire was destroyed, Chicano was already preparing the internal constitution of the planet. A brand new rule. Naturally, it was accompanied by a new constitution. Let's do as you decide. Yizichin didn't even look at him, and merely nodded towards Chicano with a smile. I have absolute trust in you, and I believe that your terms are the best. Then this subordinate will distribute it to the managers of the various city lords. Sure. Yizichin nodded towards Chicano with a smile. There's something I need to tell you. Star-Lord, please instruct me. Chicano replied. Let's open up the entire planet as soon as possible so that people from different regions can freely communicate. This is the most important thing. Yizichin narrowed his eyes. I'll give you 1 year. I think 1 year is absolutely enough. I want to see a brand new life planet. Please rest assured, Star-Lord. Chicano swore solemnly. Also, Yizichin raised his eyebrows. I'm not asking you to take care of the surrounding beasts, but you must kill the leader-level beasts as soon as they appear, including the leaders outside our village. That's right. Yizichin nodded solemnly. As long as it's a leader, we must kill it. Once it's reborn, we must kill it immediately. All the items obtained can be stored in the warehouse of the City Lord's mansion. Yes, go. Chicano accepted the order and left. Actually, Yizichin felt that this world was rather strange. The birth of berserk beasts. The birth of a leader. They were all very different from the first universe. There was no sign of life here. It was as if they had appeared out of thin air. It was as if they had respawned automatically when the time was up. When killed, they would drop items. In the eyes of the natives, this was a gift from the gods. That was Yizichin's request to kill the leader. That was because he still remembered Bai Feng's reason for entering this world. Although he hadn't seen her for a while, he'd never forgotten her needs. It just so happened that he had such conditions now. Send someone to help her beat them up. Perhaps something would happen. After Chicano left, Yizichin walked out of the room and looked at the outside world. Who would have thought, 3 years ago, he was still struggling in the beginner's village. Now this life star belonged to him. Ding dong. At that moment, someone suddenly at Ed Yizichin in the virtual network. Steelcase, future Steelcase, future Almighty, I really admire you from the bottom of my heart. Why are you always able to do such shocking things? Jingling. How did you do it? Gulu, future great god. After 3 years of silence, he's already a hot topic. Returning Windblade. They were all blown out. Hua Jinro. Damn, what's going on with you in the future? Bye, congratulations. Meng Luo. Guru, you're amazing. Flame Rat. My big brother is my big brother. We're still fighting monsters, and you've already unified the planet? Blue Shield Clan 0713. What's going on? He opened the Milky Way communication group. During his 2 years in seclusion, Yizichin blocked off all news. Not long ago, he unblocked the messages, and the moment he unblocked them, he received many messages from his acquaintances. It was just that he had been busy with planet matters. He didn't reply. When he saw someone at him in the group, he was completely dumbfounded. Unified the planet? How do they know? Our great Lord of the Stars. Bailey stood on Yi Zichen's shoulder. Let me show you something good. What is it? Yi Zichen looked at him in confusion. Then, a post suddenly popped up in front of him. Shocking news. Future Milky Way has successfully gained control of the planet. Yi Zichen was completely stunned when he saw the post. Who posted this? I don't know. Bailey shrugged. Bailey shrugged his shoulders. I checked just now, but the clue was cut off halfway through. Someone must have intentionally spread this out. Not to mention the people of your life planet. Even the people of other life planets know about it. Yi Zichen looked at the time the post was posted. It hadn't even been half an hour. The replies below had already exceeded 10 million. The people in the group also discussed fervently. They were all very curious about how Yi Zichen had done it. After all, they were still at the stage of fighting monsters and establishing their families. Yi Zichen taking control of their entire life planet was a huge blow to them. Ding dong. Meng Luo is sending you a video call. He hesitated for a moment before confirming. The moment the call connected, the person he saw wasn't Meng Luo, but rather Hua Jinro. The future. F***CK. Didn't you say you were in seclusion? How did you suddenly get control of the life planet? You're really something. While we were cultivating, you sneakily stole the life star. Why didn't you tell us in advance? We want to take part in this too. Also, my dad told me to ask you, how did you do it? Hua Jinro's mouth was like a machine gun. She chattered nonstop. What else could I have done? I fought it down. Yi Zichen shrugged. F***CK. Since when did the town become like this? At that moment, Hua Jinro suddenly screamed in terror. It wasn't just her. Bai Sei and the others all had similar expressions. You guys don't know? How would we know? Hua Jinro curled her lips. During this period of time, we have also been in seclusion. Seeing that the genius contest is about to begin, the few of us have been brought back by our families to cultivate. Oh my God, how many good things did Meng Tai research for you to come out with this flying ship? Thank you for your help. Yi Zichen smiled. You're welcome. In response, Hua Jinro laughed. All right, since we all have a planet, we'll definitely rely on you. All right, are you going to the genius tournament? Go, then we will wait for you. Hua Jinro waved her hand and then frowned. Let's not talk anymore. We have to leave. Our family won't let us enter the virtual network. See you at the genius tournament. All right. Yi Zichen sat back down on his chair as he watched them close the video call. The battle between the geniuses. It seemed like everyone was working hard. Since Yi Zichen had pretty much taken care of everything on the planet, he felt like it was time to return to the Milky Way for a while. The Chicanos and the others helped manage it. There shouldn't be any problems. At that moment, Chicanos hurried in from outside the city Lord's Manor. Master of the Stars, your friend, Tianhai, wants to see you. Look, Tianhai. Yi Zichen was stunned. He didn't see Tianhai speak up in the Milky Way chat group, so he thought that Tianhai was busy. I didn't expect him to directly come. I heard that he's a sovereign in the real world. Yi Zichen pursed his lips with a smile. Let him in. Chapter 2470. With Yi Zichen's approval, Chicano brought Tianhai to the city Lord's Manor. The future. Tianhai smiled the moment he saw Yi Zichen. He walked up and gave Yi Zichen a bear hug. Very quickly, he was stunned and looked at Yi Zichen for a long time. How strong are you now? The peak of the universe. Yi Zichen smiled. You. Tianhai was stunned for a long time. Just now, when he hugged Yi Zichen, he felt that the cosmic energy around Yi Zichen was rather thick. After a while, he actually found that he was unable to see through Yi Zichen's strength. You're already at the peak of the universe. Do you think that I spent the past few years in seclusion for nothing? Yi Zichen shrugged with a smile, then pointed at the seat in front of him. Sit. Tianhai's eyes were filled with shock. He broke through to the peak of the universe in less than 3 years. How'd you do it? Tianhai's eyes were filled with shock and confusion. When I came just now, I saw that the guard in your city were all very imposing. They were all of the universe level. Did they come from the higher circles? Yes. Chicano came from the first universe. No one else knew about this. If their strength was obtained through systematic training, Tian Hai would definitely suspect Chicano's identity. Since he couldn't reveal this, Yi Zichen could only tell a white lie. Then how did you do it? The lower circles were generally weaker. If the higher circles were all universe level, then how did Yi Zichen and company beat them? Actually, my men aren't weak either. I've learned of a training method from my elders and passed it on to my subordinates, letting them train with me. My subordinates are all at the pinnacle of the star system and universe level. You should have seen it when you came. My city's technology is much more advanced compared to this planet. We won with our advanced equipment. Yi Zichen shrugged with a smile. So that's how it is. Tian Hai did not doubt it at all. He was shocked when he saw the city as well. He guessed that if the city could be built to this level, then Yi Zichen's research department would be able to make laser guns as well. Scientific weapons like that were great weapons of war. On this planet, where there was almost no technology, laser guns were invincible. As for systematic training, as a venerable, he naturally knew about it. A training method developed by the upper echelons of the human race. It allowed one to rise to the universe level in a short period of time and rush straight to the battlefield. This was also because the human race was weaker than the other races, so they had no choice but to use this method. At first, Yi Zichen said he was at the peak of the universe. He even wondered if he had used this method as well. However, it was quickly denied by him. He had experienced this period before. He remembered that he had spent 100 years to go from the domain level to the peak of the universe. At that time, he was also fumbling around on his own. It was only later that he heard about systematic training. Even so, 2 years would at most allow him to reach the universe level. More importantly, after this method was used, a large amount of human potential was squeezed out, and their future achievements would not be particularly high. He didn't think that Yi Zichen would do that to him. In this way, he could forcefully increase his strength, destroy your own future. However, if it was used on the natives, it would be a good choice to raise their overall strength in a short period of time. It was now. The human race had stabilized, and it had been a long time since such a training method had appeared. However, given Yi Zichen's background, Tian Hai didn't doubt that he would be able to learn it. No matter what, he was someone that the Virtual World Corporation and the Universe United Bank had sent people to rescue. I really didn't expect that in the blink of an eye. It's only been 2 years, and you've already grown so much, Tian Hai sighed with a smile. It seems like I'll have to call you Lord of the Stars from now on. It's just a life planet, it's not that exaggerated. Yi Zichen smiled modestly. This bit of wealth might seem fine in front of others, but he knew very well that the person in front of him was a sovereign. A sovereign's life planet was definitely not a small matter. If Yi Zichen tried to use the title of Lord of the Stars in front of him, that would be a bit too arrogant. I'm not exaggerating. Tian Hai's expression suddenly turned serious. Tian Hai's face suddenly became solemn. You should know that you're the only one who owns a life star in the second universe. Compared to the rest of us, you have already established a huge advantage in the second universe. What's more, this advantage will increase to an astonishing degree. At the very least, before the universes fuse, you can expand your territory without fear. If worst comes to worst, you can just wait for the fusion to happen. You could just find a flag to join, and your territory won't be affected. Actually, Yi Zichen had the same thought, even without Tian Hai's reminder. Plunder the universe's resources as fast as possible and as many as possible. At present, he could rely on the power of science and technology to establish an advantage in the second universe within a short period of time. However, if the universes were to merge, these advantages of his might disappear. He had to do more things before the fusion. Only then could he ensure the future of himself and the Milky Way galaxy. And he was already doing it. Not long ago, Han Qing, Theseus, and Cyclops had led 2 million elite vanguard troops away from the planet. With one eye, a venerable of the first universe, around, he could also give the most appropriate advice when plundering planets. Yi Zichen smiled at Tian Hai, then spoke. Ha ha! Then, can I join Brother Amami? Me? Tian Hai shrugged and shook his head. Don't count on me. Isn't Brother Amami A supremacy? With a supremacy protecting me, what do I have to fear? Yi Zichen smiled. What's the use of a supremacy? Suddenly, a hint of sadness appeared in Tianhai's eyes. A supremacy isn't invincible. If you aren't a supreme being, then everything is useless. From Tianhai's tone, Yi Zichen could sense self-mockery. Old bro, what's wrong? Ah, nothing. Tianhai shook his head with a smile. Yi Zichen frowned. You can tell me if you're in trouble. If I can help. Although I don't seem to be able to help much, I can think of a way for you. Never mind. I won't hide anything from you. Tianhai let out a long sigh. Future brother, I've actually run into some trouble recently. What trouble? I won't say what it is, Tianhai smiled. But I want to ask Lil Bro in the future for something. Old bro, tell me. I want to buy some resources from you. Tianhai hesitated for a moment. Before saying, Don't worry, I'll buy it at twice the market price. What do you think? Chapter 2471. Buying resources. Given the situation on Yi Zichen's life planet, the consumption of resources was enormous. Forget about selling resources. He wanted to buy resources from the outside world. Big bro, what's going on? I need some resources, Tianhai frowned. Tianhai furrowed his brows, his gaze extremely solemn. Future brother, I know you need a lot of resources right now. I have no other choice. What resources do you need? Yi Zichen asked after a moment's hesitation. Since Tianhai had already put it that way, Yi Zichen couldn't just refuse. Actually, he wanted to say, there are so many resource planets in the universe, and many families specialized in selling resources. Why didn't Tianhai buy from the first universe? Why did he have to buy from him? Or double? But then he thought about it. Since Tianhai had already gone this far, he could tell that Yi Zichen had nowhere else to go. That's why he was buying from him. That's it. It was clear that Tianhai had come prepared. As soon as Yi Zichen finished speaking, he took out a list from his pocket. Yi Zichen looked it over, then handed it to Chicano. Chicano took the list, then looked through it for about half a minute. These are all strategic resources. Seeing that some things weren't convenient to say, Chicano sent Yi Zichen a private message. Strategic resources. In other words, resources used in war. Big bro, Yi Zichen gripped the list. Tianhai let out a deep sigh. I know you'll definitely recognize this. To tell you the truth, my galaxy is currently in a period of war. Outsiders? Of course not, Tianhai sighed. Tianhai let out a long sigh. A civil war, a war of aggression. Master of the stars. Aggression is a rather common method of warfare for us humans. It's also a way to expand our territory. Chicano sent Yi Zichen a private message to explain. Yi Zichen frowned when he saw the message. The humans don't care? We can't manage this sort of war, Chicano replied. Wars like this break out almost every day among the human race. Even a human race can't manage all of them. All right, after sending the message, Yi Zichen smiled towards Tianhai. Big bro is preparing to invade other planets? Then I have to congratulate you in advance. Future lil bro, don't hide it from me. Yi Zichen was stunned. Look at me. Do I look like I'm going to invade another life star? Tianhai clenched his fists and said, I'm the one being invaded, and the galaxy I control has almost been completely devoured. Only one main star and 3 auxiliary stars are left. The rest have all fallen. Tianhai's last sentence was uttered through gritted teeth. He clenched his fists tightly. The veins on his arms bulged, and the bones in his fingers creaked. How is this possible? Yi Zichen couldn't help but shout. Venerable realm. It was good enough that he didn't invade other life stars. Someone dared to invade him? Anyone who heard this would find it hard to believe. That's right. How is that possible? Tianhai also smiled bitterly. A dignified supremacy. Not being able to protect an entire galaxy was a great humiliation to him. How could this be? Yi Zichen frowned. I already have some clues. I know who is supporting them from behind to attack my galaxy. Tianhai let out a sigh. Right now, I can't buy any strategic resources in the first universe. That person should have told me beforehand. Future lil bro, I can only buy from you right now. How much do you need? The more the better. Tianhai's eyes darkened. I know that saying this might be a bit. All right, I'll give it to you. Before Tianhai could finish, Yi Zichen nodded in agreement. Chicano, give all the strategic resources we have stored in the chaotic stars to Tianhai. Send people to mine. Give him as much as we can. Master of the stars. Chicano was stunned. He frowned as he looked at the strategic resources on the list. There are many resources on there that we need. Without them, many of our projects will be put on hold. Then let's put them on hold. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh. Some of our projects are far too insignificant compared to the survival of the planet. Yes, this subordinate obeys. Chicano also let out a long sigh in his heart. Tianhai's eyes also turned red as he walked in front of Yi Zichen. Future Lil Bro. Persevere, Lil Bro. As long as the war on your side doesn't stop and the resources on my side don't run out, I will continue to provide you with the strategic resources you need. Yi Zichen said seriously. I will also attack other life planets. As long as I get the resources you need, I will give them to you first. Future, I will remember this favor. Tianhai nodded. Yi Zichen smiled as well. It seems like I profited. No matter how you think about it, using some resources to make the sovereignty of favor is a good deal. I'll transfer the money to you right now. No need. Yi Zichen shook his head with a smile. Your face is only worth these resources. You don't need to give me money. I'll give them to you for free. How can that be? Tianhai glared. Do you know how valuable these resources are? It is already a huge favor that you are willing to sell them to me. How can I take them for free? Do you want me to be unable to raise my head in front of you for the rest of my life? All right, then give me the normal price. Yi Zichen reached out his hand to stop Tianhai when he saw that he was about to speak again. Don't say any more. If you want to buy it at double the price, don't blame me for not selling it to you. Future brother. Tianhai couldn't help but hug Yi Zichen again. Thank you. Ha 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 ha, you're too polite. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows with a smile. You have to win. I'm counting on you to be my backer in the future. Definitely. Tianhai nodded forcefully. I can't say I'm your backer, but if you need me as an ally and don't mind my weak strength, I'll definitely stand by your side. It's a deal. It's a deal. Smiling at Tianhai, Chicano led him out of the city lord's residence to retrieve the resources. Yi Zichen sat on the chair and let out a long sigh. Bailey, you're really stupid. Bailey frowned. If you give him these resources, it will affect you greatly. Maybe. Yi Zichen smiled without retorting. Bailey suddenly spoke up with a smile. But it's fine. I've already searched for some resources on the virtual network and negotiated the purchase of a batch of resources. Actually, it won't affect us much. Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you as well. Yi Zichen smiled. Give all the resources we bought to Tianhai as well. I said, we'll give it all to him, so we'll definitely give it all to him. We won't keep anything for ourselves. Chapter 2472. Do you know what you're saying? Bailey started to doubt what he had just heard. We also sell the resources we buy to him. Don't you know that we have to pay taxes? Yi Zichen really didn't know that he had to pay taxes when he bought goods. He didn't have to pay any tax on the elemental crystals he bought before. There's tax too? You think? Bailey frowned and shouted. The purchase of strategic resources requires some taxes. The more we buy, the more fees we have to pay. How much? According to the money Tianhai gave you just now, if you buy all the resources and sell them to him at the original price, you'll lose at least 40 million. Universe dollars? That's right. Bailey looked very serious. 40 million universe credits was not a small sum to anyone. In fact, he had deliberately exaggerated a little. Actually, the correct number was 33 million. He just wanted to raise the number a bit so that Yi Zichen would give up on the idea. It's just 40 million. I can afford it. We'll just make up for it. Even in Bailey's dreams, Yi Zichen actually gave him this sort of reply. You'd rather pay the taxes yourself? They would rather provide Tianhai with insufficient resources than to provide the greatest amount of support. I really don't understand what you're thinking. I know what you're worried about. Yi Zichen smiled towards Bailey. Do you think that losing 40 million isn't worth it? This is not a matter of 40 million. Bailey felt like he was going crazy. He slapped his head and shouted. Do you know how important those strategic resources are? Do you know how necessary it is for you right now? You think it's because of the slowdown of certain technologies. Do you know how much of an improvement it would be to you if you could obtain those technologies? This is not a matter of 40 million. It's a question of 400 million for billion or 40 billion. These resources will greatly affect the efficiency of your territory expansion. No matter what, we should at least leave some behind. Actually, it wasn't that Yi Zichen didn't understand what Bailey meant. From Chicano's attitude back then, it was obvious that these strategic resources were very important to him. Otherwise, with his personality, he would not question his decision in front of others. At most, he would communicate in private. He said it. This proved the urgency of this matter. I think you really need to reconsider. Bell heaved a long sigh. I'm already being very careful. Yi Zichen shrugged with a smile. Actually, all you've been talking about is what I've lost, but what you haven't considered. What I've lost doesn't affect me too much. It doesn't affect my current survival. It's just a matter of efficiency. But Tianhai is facing the destruction of the entire galaxy. That's his problem. Bailey spoke. The people of your universe are really too cold. Yi Zichen shook his head. Do you know what it means to do anything for a brother? Tianhai is my good friend. If he's in trouble, I'll definitely do my best. Moreover, I also believe that if he treats me as a friend after solving the urgent situation at hand, he will consider my need for resources and not buy all of them. I won't lose these resources forever, just for a short period of time. I'm too lazy to argue with you. Bailey frowned, then directly disappeared from Yi Zichen's shoulder. Just before he disappeared, there seemed to be a smile lingering on his face. This decision might be a little silly. At the very least, he's a decent person. Following someone like that is better than following those cold-blooded people. Yi Zichen shrugged bitterly. Perhaps he was different from the people of the universe in some aspects. From her point of view, anything that didn't involve them had nothing to do with them. No matter what, Yi Zichen always felt that this concept was wrong. Jianghu was all about the ways of the world. If you don't treat others well, then why do you expect others to treat you well? This time he helped Tianhai. If Tianhai won, then the Milky Way galaxy would have a sovereign-level ally. A sovereign-level ally. Isn't this kind of ally enough? Even if he lost, Yi Zichen had a clear conscience. At the very least, he was doing his best to help Tianhai. He had always believed that good people would be rewarded. The good karma he accumulated now would be returned to him in the future. Another 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. During these few days, Tianhai would come to the chaotic stars to extract resources. Yi Zichen would take away as much as he extracted. During this time, Yi Zichen also handed over some strategic resources to the first universe. Yi Zichen gave all of these resources to Tianhai. It was just as he said. He would give as much as he could. That's what he said. It was only after Tianhai obtained the third batch of resources that he mentioned that he had enough resources and didn't need Yi Zichen to provide more. From the looks of it, it really didn't affect Yi Zichen much at all. It was just 3 days. What else do you have to say for yourself? Yi Zichen shrugged, then looked at Bailey. It's just 3 days. Will it affect me as badly as you say? Fine, you win. Bailey said unwillingly. You're just too independent. Yi Zichen shrugged. Yi Zichen shrugged. I'll just put it this way. Tianhai's only ever needed resources for emergencies. If we give him too little each time, not only will they grow anxious, it'll also take them a long time to get more resources. The more we give him, the shorter the time it takes for him to obtain resources. What's more, it'll solve his urgent problems. You're not wrong. Although Bailey was very reluctant, he still agreed with Yi Zichen's reasoning. Since you're following me, then you have to get closer to me. Don't always use your universe's ways to talk to me. I'm not from the universe. I've lived in a world where people help each other. Yi Zichen twitched his mouth. Then your world must be very warm, right? Sort of. Yi Zichen smiled. Yi Zichen smiled. At least it's more humane than in the universe. With that, Yi Zichen stretched lazily. In the past few days, he had already explained everything that he needed to. With Chicano managing the chaotic stars, Yi Zichen was completely at ease. Yi Zichen looked at the city lord's manor in front of him. Yi Zichen logged out of the virtual network. You've taken care of everything? She smiled towards Yi Zichen as if she was already prepared. According to our agreement, I can let you return to the Milky Way galaxy to live for a while, but it won't be a lot. I know. Yi Zichen's eyes shone with excitement when he thought about returning to the Milky Way galaxy. Go back. There's a surprise waiting for you in the Milky Way galaxy. Surprise? Yi Zichen tilted his head. Sovereign Spirit Phoenix had mentioned it before he left. Just what surprise? You'll know when you get back. Chapter 2473. Oh my God, I didn't expect the universe to give birth to such a beautiful galaxy, and it's so huge. Most importantly, it's an ownerless Saturn. Inside a D-class spaceship, a few humans dressed in blue and white clothes were staring at the projection in front of them. On the chest area of their clothes was a tulip symbol. There was even a tulip symbol imprinted on it. Tulip family. In the Kami universe, it was a family that was above average. The people in this spaceship were all members of the Tulip family. It was an adventurer team. Their original intention was to head to the nearest secret region. They wanted to see if they could earn some interest. However, along the way, they came into contact with a wanderer, and it was this wanderer's appearance that changed their goal and destination. The content of the projection was too shocking. Some of them couldn't stay calm anymore. Their bodies were filled with indescribable excitement as they clenched their fists while looking at the projection. An ownerless Saturn. What a bunch of pitiful people. In such a galaxy, even if we were to mine resources, the wealth we could obtain would be unimaginable. This place can become a second energy empire. Everyone was still shocked by the scene in front of them. The shock stimulated their adrenaline, and their blood seemed to be boiling. At this moment, someone was holding a technological product with computing functions, and his hand were tapping on it. Oh my God! With this galaxy's rough estimation, even if we were to sell resources, we could sell it for more than 1,000 chaos units. More than 100 billion. Chaos. Oh my God. This is a rough calculation. The young man holding the calculator was flushed with excitement. There are still many strategic resources that I haven't calculated. I calculated according to the lowest resources produced by the planet. If we can mine these strategic resources, the value of the entire galaxy will increase by 100 times. Oh my God. Also, the human population in the universe has reached a saturation point. These billions of life stars, we can modify them to provide for human life. We don't need anything else. Even if it's just rent, our income. Don't say any more. Don't say any more. Seeing the young man who was still calculating was about to speak again, a few crew members held their chests and shook their heads. They didn't dare to listen anymore. With such wealth placed in front of them, they felt as if their hearts were about to explode. Captain! 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 Everyone on the spaceship looked at the middle-aged man who was still sitting on the chair. Let's do it. Yes. As long as we do this, we can directly announce our retirement. There was excitement and heat in the crew. At this time, they were completely confused by the wealth, and they could no longer control themselves. Captain! Done. At this moment, the middle-aged man sitting on the seat let out a deep breath. What nonsense are you all shouting for? Do all of you think that the galaxy is already in your pocket? Isn't it? There isn't a single-star rank expert in the entire galaxy. Won't we just crush them if we go there? The one who spoke was a 9th-level star body human. Your self-confidence will harm you. The middle-aged captain let out a long breath. It's not that I want to hurt you, but as a star rank, you don't even have the qualifications to enter the universe, and you're already thinking of fighting for a galaxy? Even if the galaxy is really given to you, do you think you can defend it? Any random universe-level adventurer, and everything you've got will be for naught. The star body level 9 was speechless by the captain's words. And the rest of you? The captain extended his hand to look at the others. The strongest among you is only a star body level 6. Seeing this galaxy, the first thing you should feel should be fear. You have to think about whether or not you have the qualifications to own it. The crew members lowered their heads in silence. Let me ask you this. How do you plan to obtain this galaxy? We can register with the nearest universe country. As the first to discover it, the universe country will give us a discount. Someone suggested. That way, not only will we own the galaxy, we'll also have the protection of the universe country. When that time comes, what bullshit tulip family will be the new family? There's no need to keep pretending to be a grandson in front of the direct descendants of the tulip family. In the future, who knows who will be the one watching? The more he spoke, the angrier he got. He could feel that he was bullied by the tulip family quite a bit. Otherwise, he wouldn't hate the tulip family so much. Yes, after we buy the galaxy, we'll become the Star Master ourselves. In terms of military strength, we'll have the protection of a universe country. Also, the universe law states that life planets are not allowed to be invaded for 1,000 years after the transaction. We'll have the absolute right to rule. In 1,000 years, with the resources of this galaxy, it'll be enough for us to grow to a very high level. The planet's power will also increase greatly. I'm sure that when that time comes, our overall strength will definitely surpass the tulip family. Let's show those arrogant bastards. They used to look down on us just because we were outer members. Every year, they would deduct our supplies. They really think that when we grow up, there'll be nothing. We'll be the Star Master ourselves. We'll be the Star Master ourselves. The people in the ship waved their arms and shouted their slogan. Looking at them, the middle-aged captain silently sighed. They were really too immature. Speaking of which, he could only blame himself. If he could work harder, he wouldn't have chosen such a group of simple-minded people when choosing the members of the adventure team. However, being simple-minded also had its benefits. At least their emotions were real. He didn't need to worry too much about whether or not these people would use tricks on him behind his back. Unfortunately, the words of the young were always thoughtless. All right, all of you, shut up. Facing these overly excited people, the middle-aged captain gestured with his hand. All of you sit down. What are you doing? The crew members followed suit and sat down. At this moment, the captain let out a long sigh. I understand your feelings. Your way of thinking is actually not wrong. Now, I'll ask you a question. The middle-aged captain's gaze swept across the crew members and slowly opened his mouth. Purchase a galaxy? Do you have the money?